Everyone, if I could ask for your attention, thanks very much. Folks will have a seat so nobody goes tumbling down the stairs. Good morning and welcome to the 7th meeting of the California Parks Forward Commission. We're delighted to have you all here today, and I want to welcome you. My name is Christine Kehoe, and along with Lance Kahn, I co-chair this commission of citizen volunteers that's done such a great job. We want to welcome Director Lisa Mangat from Department of Parks and Recreation, Transformation Team Leader Steve Zale, members of the Transformation Team, and you, of course, are the public. We have a lot of work to do. We already have a number of speaker slips in hand, so Lance and I are going to work very hard to keep us on schedule and make sure that everyone has a chance to be heard. Our primary focus today is the report that we issued last Friday. It sets a vision and a roadmap for California parks, and there are copies of the executive summary on your way in, and the 2025 vision also out there, which kind of summarizes our long-term planning. Want you to know the entire report is available online at parksforward.com. We'll begin today with some projects that are already underway. Then we're going to shift to commissioner discussion of the report and also your comments. And I want you to know if you are interested in speaking during the public comment portion of the agenda, please fill out one of these cards and give them to either Ken Wiseman or Delbra Gibbs. Delbra, where are you? She's outside. Okay. So just make sure we have one of the cards by the time we get to the public comment session. I think that's it for right now. I'm going to turn it over to Lance for some initial comments.
Is this working? Oh. I need some help from my AV guys. Do you guys have the mouse and the PowerPoint to pull up? So while they're sorting that out, I need the one that's the actual mouse that I can control the. So I want to extend my thanks to everyone as well. I think that should work. What I thought I would start off with today is a little bit of a preview of what we hope is to come. As we've mentioned at prior meetings, part of our goal in this commission was to not just to produce a report, but to produce some change. And as we thought about this final meeting, we thought, wouldn't it be nice if we could have a couple of small projects to show, to demonstrate sort of what our thinking was, sort of skunkworks projects, if you will. So we'd like to highlight 3 of those this morning. One of them is focused on access and accommodations. The other 2 are focused on sort of digital tools to help for discovery of our parks. So I'm going to talk about 2 of them. I'm going to invite some guests to walk you through the third one. As we've mentioned at prior meetings, one of our real areas of focus has been how do we expand access to the parks through the provision of rustic overnight accommodations. If you were at the February meeting in LA last year, you may recall we had a market research expert from Impacts Research testify about some research he had done that indicated that if you were looking to engage the sort of the future of California youth and millennials and Latinos, the single most important thing you could do to promote to them, to promote engagement in parks, would be to promote the availability of these overnight accommodations for a host of reasons, some having to do with just discomfort with sleeping on the ground, some having to do with turning a day trip into an overnight trip and more of a vacation. And so, again, for those of you who've been following what we've been doing, we're very fortunate to have Commissioner Wu, who's involved with Cal Poly Pomona, who seized upon this idea and somehow got one of his professors to put together a graduate design course to come up with ideas for innovative new cabins for the state parks. And so I'm going to show you some pictures of those designs here in a second, if I can get the mouse to work. This mouse isn't working. Oops. So this will be fun. So you can see it, but I can't. So I'm just going to page through a couple of these. Yeah, I think I can see it. There were four main designs. Just walk through them quickly. This was one that was sort of more focused on the beach community. And before anyone objects, this is actually obviously not a live picture. No one would stick one of these on a bunch of rocks on the beach. It's purely for illustrative purposes. This is actually my personal favorite.
Rustic.
Yeah. I'll just page through another couple. Which one is this? I can't see a thing. Sea pitch. And I'll end with this one. This is actually called the Wedge, and this was the one that, in collaboration with the Parks Department, this was selected to build a prototype, which was done last summer and was displayed at the State Fair to some acclaim. It is now outside Commissioner Wu's office, I understand, on the campus, where it's attracting a lot of attention. Until April. So what's really been fun about this project, it's just attracted a lot of interest and excitement around the prospect for these cabins being made available. And I know Director Mangat is going to give an update on some of the work that's being done there, so I don't want to steal her thunder. But we all look forward to these becoming available soon in our state parks. I will say, so there's planning for a pilot underway, which I think Lisa will speak to. We've also received quite a number of unsolicited inquiries from other parks, regional parks, local parks, even national parks, who are really interested in essentially licensing these designs. And so I would fully expect to see a number of those parks act on their interests and put some of these out in the for people to actually use. So we're looking forward to that. And I know Lisa again will speak to some of this and talk about the pilot and how they selected the pilot and the broader goals for expanding access and the sort of the rollout plan for more of the cabins. The second thing I'd like to talk about is another project we've probably mentioned but haven't explained in detail. Is the department has partnered with Google to do what I call photo mapping of the parks. So this device, which is sort of a disco ball camera on a backpack, is a camera that takes 360-degree photos wherever you walk. So if you're familiar with Google Maps and Street View, where you can actually page through an actual street as if you were driving down it, the same thing holds here. You put a backpack on a hiker, they hike the trails, and voila, you have a 360-degree photo map of an entire trail. I'm going to violate the cardinal rule of presenters, and I'm going to do a live demo, which I have not attempted yet. So with that disclaimer, I thought it would be helpful to actually just show folks how this really works. So we're going to see if this will actually work. So that's, normal Google Maps. There's the park. I'll zoom out just a little bit. And the way, if you're familiar with Street View, the way you would normally get to the street is you go, get rid of the Microsoft update, thank you. You go find the little person over here, and you want to drag them. I'm just going to pick a spot. I don't know this park, so this is actually as if I were a real user here. Let's see, how do I get rid of that? So I think I want to go over here. This looks like it's a trail. So I'm trying to figure out. I want to go to this park. Maybe. What's it look like? Maybe I'm someone who. There's some parking. Maybe I'm someone who is looking for a paved trail. Right. I sprained my ankle last week, and I don't really want to get out on a dirt trail. So I can look here. So here I found. Oh, that was lucky. I found totally unplanned. It looked like it was a paved trail. So I can now go and explore this trail to see. Well, my ankle's hurt, but is there any place where I'm going to have any trouble? This looks pretty good. Then I can go down here and say, well, so the first part of it looks pretty good. Let me let's see, zoom in here. I wonder if there's well, here we go. There's a bathroom in case. So I can also zoom up there and see if, let's say I'm in a wheelchair. This looks like is this an accessible? Let me zoom in. Yep, there's the wheelchair. So without having to call anyone, search through a website, whatever, I can actually explore the trail. So how do I get out of this? Do I just I can't. Yeah, exactly. I'm trapped. Just really quickly, let's go somewhere else just for fun. I could play with this all day long. So Point Lobos, a lot of us know Point Lobos. I was looking at this morning, and there's a place I haven't been that I wanted to check out, which is Bird Island. Has anyone ever been there? I just want to see what it might look like if I go there. So I'm just going to put myself down here. So that's the parking lot. That's not where I wanted to go. Oh, there it is. There's the trail. Hang on. You guys are going to have to pry this out of my hands. I'm telling you, I could do this all day. Hang on. I won't belabor this, but somehow I'm missing the trail. Oh, there it is. All right, so just real quickly, and then we'll move on. On the trail. Is that showing up here? And voila. And I have a 360-degree view. I know exactly what I'm getting into before I get there, including, as you can see, it's sometimes a little crowded. So anyway, the Parks Department has currently mapped 14 of these parks. I know Lisa will probably speak to their plans to do others. This is a neat tool for I'll say for me, I'm a power user. I still love this tool because I can go check out parks I haven't been to. But obviously, for folks who are concerned about this, how strenuous a hike might be, what the views are going to look like, et cetera. So it's I think a really exciting new thing. The third thing we'd like to talk about very quickly is a new web-based app for search and discovery of parks, regardless of geographic boundaries. One of the things we learned from the marketing research we did back in February was that users don't really discriminate boundary lines. They don't care if it's a local park, state park, regional, national. They care about a park and the activity. And so we, through a grant, have funded some development work that I'm going to ask our guests to walk us through, which is the purpose of which is to enable very easy search and discovery and facilitate social sharing of pictures and comments, and really reach out to an audience that is much more digitally savvy than me and my fellow commissioners, for sure, as I've just demonstrated. And we're really excited about this as well. I think it's going live today. So I want to invite John Christensen and Dan Rademacher, who have really spearheaded the development of this, to show us how the new app works and walk us through it.
We're not as brave as Commissioner Khan, so we're gonna show you some slides. But the app is live, and you can all test it out, even as we speak on the phone, on your phones or tablets or laptops. So I'm John Christensen, and I want to thank the Parks Forward commissioners, and thanks to our partners, Green Info Network, HipCamp, the Parks Forward Commission, and Resources Legacy Fund. And we've also worked very closely with California State Parks as we've developed this application. And I'd like to tell you a very short story about our research on social media and parks, and some of the key findings that have deeply guided our design before we get into the demo of the application itself. We began our research in the fall of 2013 by setting up algorithms to capture all of the social media content emanating from parks, from the actual locations, through Instagram, Flickr, Twitter, and Foursquare. So far, we've gathered social media from more than 500,000 unique social media users who have shared content in one or more of the close to 12,000 parks in California. This is a heat map of all the Instagram photos posted in parks in the Los Angeles area last year in 2014. So the darker color means there's much more density of photographs in those areas. We've discovered two important things in our research. The first is that parks are social. People do things in parks that they do in the rest of their lives. They take selfies, they share photos, they meet up. We don't have to gin up social media around parks. People are already sharing their love of parks on social media. When I told this story to the Deputy Director of the National Park Service when I was in Washington, D.C. in the fall, she said, "Yeah, it's like people are having a party over there, and they're talking about us, and we're not going to the party." We don't have to create the party. We just have to figure out how to join it. This is Tilden Regional Park, Yosemite. The second thing we found is that diverse Californians will see people like themselves in parks, despite the fact that some groups are, in fact, underrepresented in park attendance. If you look at social media, you will see diverse Californians in parks. People want to see themselves in public spaces in order to feel welcome there. And if we can represent that diversity by sharing those images, it is an invitation to California's parks. In this, we have gained tremendous insight through working with two groups, Outdoor Afro and Latino Outdoors, who have consistently noted that their communities have a love of nature and get outdoors. And an important part of our work is not to create those connections, but to recognize, represent, and support them. There's one other important principle that guided our design, and we got this insight from John Jarvis, the director of the National Park Service, who spoke at one of your meetings and said that millennials don't like to be spoon-fed information. They want to discover things on their own. And as Director Jarvis ruefully noted on that occasion, we've been spoon-feeding people information for 100 years. In our design, we put a priority on seeing the world of parks through the eyes and desires of users, encouraging discovery, representing diversity visually as a welcoming invitation to all Californians, and tapping into the existing social nature of parks. I'd like to ask our project director on this at Stamen Design, Dan Rademacher, to come up and walk you through the app, and then I'd like to just tell you very, very briefly a few of our thoughts about where do we go from here.
Okay, thanks. Let's see. Oops. Crap. There we go. So we start with the homepage of caliparks.org, and we have a location bar, big and prominent right at the top, an obvious road. of where you go. You can either hit that Find Me button there, that's the, sort of the symbol of locate me using my phone's GPS, or enter any string that Google can understand. We're using a lot of Google technology here to take advantage of their ability to recognize things almost no matter how many typos you put in them. They will usually figure out what you mean. And so we can search for parks near Sacramento, and we will serve up from the 11,826 public parks in the California Protected Areas database, and that's a lot of parks, so we're trying to sort them in some intelligent way, and so we've got a relatively simple algorithm now that weights based on distance, size of the park, number of activities that we know about, and the amount of social media that we've found. And we imagine and expect to tweak that algorithm as time goes on. Right now we're sort of leaning a little bit towards bigger parks with more outdoorsy activities, but we can turn that dial also towards more urban parks as needed. You can use the little button at the upper right of the screen there to flip to a map, and it's a custom-based map that we designed to highlight parks especially, but again, this is using Google technology, so all the location awareness is strong and fast. There's an activity filter that you can flip down and choose from any combination of 20-plus activities, from backpacking and hiking to basketball and ball fields. And so we'll try hiking, and that will give you parks near here that offer good hiking. We show all the other activities just grayed out, so you get a sense of the kind of diversity. Is this a park where I can just do one thing, or is this a park where I can do 12 things? And if we check out Auburn State Recreation Area, we get Flickr photos up at the top that give an amazingly reliable bead of what the landscape actually looks like, and then you can scroll down and see the park boundaries on a map and the Instagram feed. And the Instagram feed is where you really get people living their lives in parks. And so front and center on this page we've got a family hiking, and we can click on that and open it up in Instagram and see that a family that hikes together is awesome together. These folks were hiking I think it was just a week ago. We harvest new social media content every day, so that photo may not be at the top today, but it was the day before yesterday. Back up at the top, in addition to all those activity icons and the social media dashboard that just sort of gives you a sense of how much activity we've found in this park with the tweets, photos, venues, check-ins, and tips, we've got links to the official park pages, camping if it's available, an embed link if you want to embed a version of that park map on your own website, and then social media liking and tweeting. And so the social media is simple but effective. You can write a tweet or a Facebook post that suggests meeting up at that park, and it will link back to this page and have all the information there. The park info button will link out to the official park page wherever we have it. We have that for all state parks and an additional 600 odd other parks through Green Info Network's work, our partner. So we can make sure to get people the accurate and complete information if they want to go there. And when there's camping available, we hook into hipcamp.com if they have a page for that park. And if they don't, we hook to the agency page about camping in that park. So if there's online reservations available for a park with camping, you'll be able to find them through Cali Parks. And then if you actually want to go to this park, there's that big blue directions button. One thing that I'll say, because we're using Google, if you full screen this map, and the trail view that Lance showed earlier, I find works a little better on desktop than on mobile at this point, but it is fully available in our application. And so any park that has street view or trail view available, you'll be able to drag your Pegman onto that map and use it. And then directions will hook in, if you're on desktop, into Google Maps in your browser, but if you're on a phone, it will hook into the native Maps app on your phone and get you there by whatever means that application can support. So Google will do transit, walking, biking, car, Apple a little bit less, but it's all there. Whatever the giant corporations are offering, you can get through Cali Parks. And all of that is English and Spanish. The main interface elements are all translated into Spanish. And then those story blocks on the home page are part of the, so a lot of this is just finding the key use case is find parks near me. But we also want to be able to curate special groups of parks. So at launch, we have Explore State Parks right up at the top, and that will get you a list of nearest first state parks wherever you are. I ran this in my office in San Francisco. And we can change out those story blocks regularly as communication needs change, or as seasons change, or as we want to reach out to some group we haven't reached out. We can swap in a different group of parks and a different image, and the site takes on a different look and a different angle. There's a lot of data here, 15,000 plus activity tags and almost 12,000 parks, so there's probably some mistakes. So at the bottom of every page is a send feedback that opens a window. You can include a screenshot, we'll get a message, and we can improve the data and not only listen to what Californians are saying in parks through social media, but what they're saying about the app we built and respond to that. So, thanks.
So where do we go from here? First, we are, as Jan said, as we speak, harvesting user feedback, improving the application's functionality and data, and we will keep doing that to maintain and improve the user experience. I'd like to briefly outline 3 important and potentially powerful avenues for leveraging the application in the context of the great work that everyone is now undertaking to modernize the California park experience. First, while we have good basic activity data for 816 large parks, many of them with wilderness available in them, and 5,447 urban parks, and primary entry points for all 11,826 publicly accessible parks in California, we see a tractable path forward for improving and adding to that data across multiple agencies, and the potential for harvesting, embedding user-generated open data to create much richer data for activities and amenities within parks. The second area where we see potential paths forward is for native apps for the Apple operating system and Android for smartphones, so that users can access data when they don't have cell service or a Wi-Fi connection in parks. We decided to go with the browser-based web application first because it's accessible right away. You click on a link and you're there on your phone or your tablet or your phone. You don't have to download anything. It's not a walled garden. It's open. But we do recognize that there can be an important use and need for a native app. But we think these apps will be much more useful with more enriched data within those parks. So that's the use case. That's that people, when they're inside the parks, will have more use for that detailed data about what's inside parks. And third and finally, we see a potential for working with partners such as the new nonprofit support organization that you all have envisioned, as well as other organizations around the state, to create deeper ongoing engagement with users and potential revenue streams for parks and park support organizations through such things as mobile payments and donations. What most interested us about this project from the beginning was the opportunity to be part of the solution for the future of parks in California. And we're deeply grateful to be working with you with that goal always foremost in our minds. Thank you. And we'd be happy to take any questions you have for us.
Do any commissioners have questions? No, absolutely.
Thank you. Well, thanks for this presentation. I'm just in love with this thing already, and I haven't even
thank you.
turned it on.
Wonderful.
But I do have this question. It appears from the presentation, which I may be wrong about this, that the information about culture, about the evolution of society that's represented in some of our historic resources, I think about Allensworth State Park, China Camp, and other places, the Chinese immigration station on Angel Island. Are there easy ways to find out about what history is is protected and preserved in these parks, and connections to what it might mean as our society evolves and where people can learn about these things, as opposed to the apparent concentration on hiking and biking and wilderness and outdoors. And I think that the park system is equally important for its representation of what America is and where it's come from.
Yes, and we heard that very loud and clear in our conversations with the California State Parks as well, that it would be very important to represent the historical sites where we can see and experience that history, whether it be in state parks or in national parks. And so we have included in the activity data, historical sites and museums, and that kind of data is not as uniform across all of the park systems, so it's going to be a little bit more tricky, but we realize that it's a very, very high priority. And so we've included that from the beginning. The other way that we could do that is by using those story blocks that Dan talked about to curate a collection of parks that tell a particular story, and then collaborate with partners like the California State Parks or the national parks to tell that story, to promote that story, to tell it through the app, but to tell it through other venues.
I'm not sure that I heard this, but one of the things, first of all, I want to say I'm so excited about this, and particularly managing a regional park system, that regional parks and local parks are all included, because that's just such a truism that the public doesn't care necessarily who operates the park, they care about their experience in the park. But one of the things I'm not sure that we called out is the fantastic opportunity for people who are native Spanish speakers to quickly have the entire website in Spanish and all of this information in Spanish. And I think that's a first for something, well, the whole thing is a first, but that is one of the things I'm most excited about, and I just want to make sure we call that out.
Yeah, thanks again, and thanks to our colleague and friend Jose Gonzalez from Latino Outdoors, who helped us with that translation, and also made sure that the translation is in the vernacular of the users in the same way that we tried to make the activities and the story blocks be something that would, appeal to people to get outside, or to, whatever it was that they were in a kind of colloquial language. Jose really worked with us to make sure that we hit the right tone. And there was another sort of serendipitous aspect of this as we were exploring various names with Cali Parks. Jose also told us that resonated nicely with the Latino Spanish-speaking audience. It has that nice lilt to it.
John, I wanted to say again, congratulations to you and your colleagues from Statement Design. The app is so user-friendly and has so much terrific content. I think it's really wonderful. And as you know from the time when you came to our campus a few weeks ago and tested the app on some of our students, the reaction is very enthusiastic. I wanted to ask you about what may be a missing step, or a step that you haven't talked about very much, which is how are people going to know that they need this? That is, I think for those who are very adept with social media or are likely to look for an app, it's really wonderful. But it seems to me there's a very large population of people who may not know that they need this, or may not know that it's available. Has there been any discussion about what can be done to let people know that it's available, and especially for those who may not use their smartphones for this purpose, or may not have a smartphone but want the information and might be very avid users of it if they knew it was out there? Has there been any discussion about that step of how to let people know that it's there?
Yes, and I think. Let me first start by saying we don't believe that we can do this alone, and we don't believe that if you build it, they will come. This is a tool that's within a much larger, more vibrant ecosystem of organizations and communications. And as I tried to say in the beginning, there's a conversation happening out there. And we need to figure out how to be part of those conversations, and we're actively working on that now. We've had some good start at some good mainstream coverage in the last couple of days that's getting the word out about it to users who might not be on social media. We conducted a Parkinar, an online web seminar that was conducted by Upwell, a great organization that has their finger on the pulse of social media. We conducted one yesterday with more than 40 of the key influencers and conversations about parks. And so we'll be working very hard over the next couple of months to keep those conversations going, to become part of conversations that we learn about, to reach out into, for new audiences. But it's also really going to depend on all of you and of all the people in the room and in the audience to help us understand how this can best play a useful role in the conversations that people are already engaged in, that show, as Upwell has found about their work on oceans and marine protected areas, the kind of the two of the strongest kinds of sentiments, and as we've found this and really believe in this, is love for parks and the desire to protect them. And I think if we can connect with those messages with a wide variety of conversations that are already happening and new ones we can create, we'll be successful.
Thank you.
Any other questions? John, Dan, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Could I make a comment?
I'm sorry.
I wanted to make sure nobody down here had a comment. But I'd like to just say this is so exciting, and I was going through it on my phone while you were speaking, and of course I looked up San Diego immediately. Good job.
Oh, thank you. Wonderful.
There's already almost 24 pictures from Anza Borrego State Park out in the desert, including the lone bicyclist on the desert road and selfies with the cactus behind them and all that. So you hit a nerve, and it's visual, it's exciting, it's interactive. Thank you very much for this wonderful work. I think for us on the commission, this is an example of coming together, identifying a project and going forward with it in a timely way and really getting positive results that people, the public, the citizens of California respond to immediately. So I hope that's an example of the work we're going to be doing in many, many areas that are maybe not quite as glamorous as a phone app, but will be equally important to access to the park and transforming the department. So thank you. It's a very inspiring presentation.
Thank you. It's been a really, as I said, very, very gratifying to work on this with you all, and it's been really exciting to see the response over the last couple of days, and looking forward to working together in the future.
That's all right. I'll guard the baby.
Okay. Thanks again. Just to add my own 2 cents, for what is in effect a version 1 product that's just been released, it's tremendous work. Thank you so much. So to close out this section, we hope that by walking through these 3 sort of skunkworks projects, we've given us a taste for what we think some of the potential is. Obviously, none of these projects on their own is going to transform the state park system or guarantee the sustainability of parks, but we do believe, as Chris said, that through the accumulation of projects like this across a wide variety of areas, that there's real hope and optimism. I'd like to shift now just to talk a little bit about the report itself before we head into public comment section and then get the comments of the commissioners. So I not only drew the short straw for doing a live demo, I now have to have the pleasure of telling you about a report that I hope most of you have already seen and at least looked at the summary of. So rather than walk you through a detailed presentation that tells you what you can easily find out by looking at it or that you already know, I thought I would just give a few comments about the process to date, where we think things stand, and what the potential next steps are. As those of you, and I see a lot of familiar faces who have been in the room for every one of our meetings know, this has been a very deliberate process over the past 18 months or so. We have had dozens and dozens of meetings outside of these commission meetings, forums and town halls and focus groups. There's been a ton of study and analysis. We're up in the thousands of pages of research, including some that we've commissioned that we've detailed at these meetings. And, you know, when we started this process, I think we all clearly said the goal was not for us to produce yet another glossy love letter to parks. We were well aware that we were not working with a blank canvas, and that there had been plenty of work done in the past to think about what are the areas of change needed, what needs to happen. And in particular, I want to make sure to call out the efforts of Save the Redwoods League and California State Parks Foundation, which issued a report in 2011 about parks excellence, many of the themes of which are reflected in our report, as well as the Little Hoover Commission, which more recently did a report that also called out a lot of ideas. Our goal was not to simply reflect all those back to you, but to build an open and inclusive process that was fact-based, that would build momentum towards real change, and that would depend on and hopefully inspire the engagement of the Parks Department itself. I think you'll see today that the department is responding in quite comprehensively to this report, and we can talk about in some respects. I don't want to steal Lisa's thunder, so I'll let her talk about all that in a bit. I think rather than walking you through all the detail of our recommendations, I want to talk about basically the three core themes and what those mean to us. There are three things that we believe have to happen for us to have a sustainable park system. First is a fundamental transformation of the department itself, how it's organized and operated. Secondly, a rededication to partnership, but from both within and without the department. And thirdly, as we've talked about a little bit here this morning, an expansion of access to all Californians. We were in a press discussion yesterday, and someone asked the question, well, that's great, but what's the most important of those three? What's the real secret? And the answer to that question is each one of those themes is necessary to having a sustainable park system. On the one hand, the department has to be transformed, because otherwise it's going to be hard to build partnerships. It'll be hard to think about expanding access. It'll be hard to rebuild the credibility and trust of the public and other stakeholders in how the department's run. That is the real focus of the 2-year transformation plan that's being put in place, which Director Monga will talk about. But likewise, we could transform the department, but if we don't have active and engaged partners, we're likely to fail. Because I think if there's one really strong conclusion that everyone involved in this process has reached, it's parks can't do it alone. For a host of reasons, they can't do it alone. They need our support. And likewise, they need to embrace the idea of collaborative and constructive partnerships in a way that hasn't happened in the past. And then lastly, I think when you think really long term, even if we transform the department, even if we have great partnerships, if we are not engaging the future decision makers, in effect, of our state, right? If we're not engaging millennials and Latinos in particular, if we're not engaging those future voters and providing them with relevant services and just demonstrating to them why parks matter and should matter to them, then all the other work will likely be for naught. because parks only exist because the public wants them to exist. And so that is the ongoing challenge as we look 10, 20 years out, is how do we maintain the relevancy of parks so that they are important to people who are making decisions about how to allocate resource and protect this part of our cultural identity. So I say that in lieu of walking you through all the detailed recommendations. I hope that was more refreshing than paging through the report. I was saying in conclusion, in terms of next steps and how we now view where we stand, I think I speak for the commissioners in saying that we are encouraged by the level of engagement and the quality of the response that we are receiving to date from the department, which you'll hear about in a moment. And I would say we are, cautiously optimistic that this quite comprehensive plan, which is ambitious, is also achievable. I don't want to. We're going to have comments from individual commissioners in a bit, and I think we all have varied things to say about next steps and everything else. I think just to clarify, the commission itself will have another meeting probably in the next 6 to 8 months. We haven't pinpointed a date yet. The purpose of that meeting will be to review progress against the plans that have been laid out. And I believe there's going to be a mechanism, which Lisa will speak to in a minute, in terms of how to give feedback and actually monitor what's going on. So we look forward to coming back and doing that in the future. And again, I'll leave individual commissioners for a bit to speak. And at this point, I'd love to turn it over to Director Mongut. We also will have Secretary Laird coming. He's while Lisa comes down, he got an unplanned visit from the Secretary of the Interior this morning, I understand. So we'll forgive him that, and hope he's here in a bit.
Thank you very much. Thanks for the nice introduction. But before I go on about kind of the administration and the department's efforts, I want to thank all of you for highlighting these issues and also identifying the opportunities that we have going forward. When I get asked kind of what is one of the most important things that's come out of this effort, frankly, the first thing that comes to my mind is that as a result of this Commission's review and the report, I think that you have elevated these issues on a platform and kind of mobilized everyone to think about the ecosystem of the parks in the state of California. And there's a level of engagement that's frankly rarely seen in state government. And so we really need to take advantage of this moment in time and this broad-based support. So we're very enthusiastic about that. I think the first thing I would say is I would hearken back to January 9th. The governor's budget that was released on January 9th, I think, is the strongest signal regarding the level of engagement and commitment to taking action to strengthen the state park system for the future. And before I dive into kind of the details of all the many initiatives that we've already begun and started implementing, I think I want to acknowledge that it's very easy. I think when people talk to me, they talk about this effort as if we've somehow reached an end of something. And granted, we've reached the end of the final draft of this report, but really the heavy lift is really ahead of us. So we need to continue to take advantage of that momentum, take advantage of the opportunities, and we share your vision. We are not looking for a report that gathers dust. I think that's one of the things that we heard from many of you, and hopefully you'll see through our actions that we're demonstrating that we have that like-mindedness with you. So all of the initiatives that we're taking on fall within some major key areas of priority that I want to walk through. One, we agree with your section of the report that talks about that the state cannot do it alone. We have to maximize partnerships. I think we've had wonderful partners. We want to continue that engagement, but I think we need to think a little more innovatively. And when we say the term partners, we actually mean that broadly. We mean volunteers, we mean nonprofits, we mean looking at more innovative arrangements with other governments, whether it be federal, whether it be local. So we're looking for that level of engagement. One of the things that we've found in talking to the many partners and talking to you folks is that The State Department has not always been ideally positioned for people to help us. And that's one of the things that we need to tackle. And so that's going to be a key area of our focus. Another area, I think one that gets a lot of discussion, is the notion of kind of strengthening kind of our fiscal systems. We need to be more transparent. We need to be more accountable. That's a very key area of our focus. Another area is increasing our relevance to all Californians. I think we have some really excellent programs out there targeting a lot of those non-traditional park users that we all speak of, but we need to find a way to engage in these areas with a little more intentionality and scale up those programs in a way that we broaden our outreach. Another thing that we've talked a lot about is the notion of establishing paths to leadership for candidates from a broader area of backgrounds. That's something that's going to be a key initiative for us to focus on. And also we're engaging with folks on the development of an outside support entity. I get asked a lot about what exactly does that look like, and I think that we're not quite there yet. I think we need to identify what are the problems and opportunities to help the department, and then stand up this entity in a way that specifically targets those areas. I think when you look back at kind of the governor's budget release, you'll see that this isn't just these are things that we're going to do, but there's an outline of the projects that we already have underway. It was very clear to us, particularly as we engaged in these discussions with you, that these issues were too important to wait until the report was final. So there's many things that we've already implemented. One thing that we're very excited about, in all of our engagement with folks, it was very clear people were not interested in a cash-only state park system. So we're happy to announce that as we stand here today, we actually have 120 of our state parks where there's the ability to use both ATM cards and credit cards. Now, I recognize that there's 280 parks in the system, but when you really back out the parks where there's no gates, the parks that are due to attendance level, that maybe we don't charge fees, that really to us statewidedness is 170 parks. So that really gives you a sense of how close we are to statewidedness. Why is this an important initiative? I think one, it gets to the theme of we need to modernize the system. We need to recognize that we need to change a bit, but we also, that helps with the fiscal accountability, because in this day and age we shouldn't have a state park system that has boxes of cash. I mean, we've got to have a more sophisticated manner to track our revenue. Speaking of revenue and the importance of fiscal accountability, we're very proud of a park unit costing report. And so whenever I talk about that, I quickly see people kind of their eyes glazing over, because it sounds like a very technical report, but it's very important. And let me give you a little background about why it's meaningful. During the discussions about the 70 park closures, we had tremendous support and help from various folks that wanted to come out and help us. And they had a very reasonable question. Their first question was, how much did you spend to operate that individual park? We could not at that time answer that question. That was very unfortunate. Now we can say 2 years in a row, last week, we just released our second annual park unit costing report. Now, what that tells you is what we spent to operate each individual park, and then it also will outline the revenue that's generated at each individual park. And why I get excited about this kind of thing is because we need to be able to make more data-driven decisions. And absent the data, your decisions can't be informed. And it allows us to engage in more meaningful conversations with stakeholders and people that are interested in the state park system. Cabins. Lance spent a good chunk of time talking about cabins, but I want to speak about why cabins are important to us. I think it was very clear through the data and the surveys that the Commission did that one of the real significant barriers to a lot of groups not coming to visiting us was the notion of being outdoors, or they wanted some alternative housing arrangements, or maybe they just didn't have all of the equipment. And it was very clear that the cabins projects addresses that. But the other really key thing that why it's so exciting for us is because we're trying to do this in a way in which we engage in an innovative philanthropic partnership. And so for me, it hits on two key areas, not just providing alternative housing and reaching underserved communities, but also making sure that we conduct a pilot program in which we successfully engage in this unique partnership. So that's very important to us. I think I spoke a bit about broadening the candidate pool and kind of looking at how do we strengthen our leadership team in the State Department. And let me speak a little bit about that. Under our current construct, you must be a peace officer in order to serve as one of our superintendents or our highest leadership positions out in the field. And so we'd like to broaden that to include not just non-peace officers, but frankly non-state employees, because we think we miss a lot of opportunities to bring in talent from either National Park Service or maybe the local folks. So that's something that's a key initiative for us. The budget also includes something that's an exciting project for us, is we are finally opening the LA Historic Park. And so anybody that's been following the state park system knows how long, how many years we've been talking about this. And so for us, it's a very exciting opportunity, not only because it's in an urban area, but we're very proud at how we've gotten to this place, that there is very exemplary relationship building with the local community. And it wasn't just the state's interpretation of how we should be interpreting the LA area, but instead that we have reached through these partnerships engaging the local communities. They've very much been a part of outlining how we should be interpreting the area. So we're very excited about that. One of the things that I think is very, very key is that the key recommendation is that the department should establish a transformation team. And the governor's budget outlines that and announces that we've actually already established that. It's a team of 15 individuals. They were chosen because of either their expertise, their enthusiasm for change. Their team members come from inside and also outside of the department, and they come from diverse skill sets. We also are engaging with some philanthropic efforts of potentially using some outside help to target two key areas that I think we can really benefit from some support. One is marketing. I think we have a very unique state park system, and there are things that we can do to maximize not only just in revenue generation, but making sure that we're reaching those non-traditional park user communities so that they understand what great services we provide. And so we want to really target the marketing efforts. The other area, frankly, is IT. I think we are really asking this department to go beyond just keeping email flowing. You know, we really want to see innovation, and we think that this is an opportunity where we can reach out and bring in more innovation more broadly and beyond card readers. You know, we want to have more pilot projects. We have a current pilot project where we'll be using smartphones to allow people more convenience when they're paying for parking, et cetera. So we need more of those types of things. And to that end, we've established this transformation team. You will find that they are targeting 30 key initiatives right now. It could be that the next time we speak, there's more initiatives because it's very much a work in progress. We are very excited that we're announcing our website. So our website is live this afternoon after this meeting, and so we are going to ask the public to please continue to engage with us. It is not our intent to go dark on you as we go through the transformation team project. We want you to continue your level of engagement. Next week, the website will actually allow you to send us your suggestions, your comments through email. And so you can find that link to parks.ca.gov. We also, not today, but eventually one of our goals is that we're going to have a performance dashboard on there. And why is that? It's a business buzzword, but that's very important because it's going to allow you to look at this website and really track each key initiative and what we're doing to address this. You know, the word that anybody's that's hanging out with me right now, they probably get tired of hearing the notion of sustainability. So it's not just positive change, but we need sustainability. And so at the end of this effort, and this is a 2-year commitment for this transformation team, at the end of all of our collective efforts, we expect that statute will be changed. We expect that when you open up the governor's budget document, it will look differently. We expect that the structure of the department itself will be different. And so your way to watch us and share in our excitement as we chip away at these initiatives and we can begin talking about them in the past tense will be through this dashboard. So thank you very much, and hopefully our enthusiasm is infectious. Thanks.
I'll just make a quick comment. I echo Lance's remarks when he introduced you. Your response to the report early on, well before it was finished, and you're taking on some very significant tasks in moving toward a transformation of the department has really, we deeply appreciate it. We think we're on the right path. We want to stay engaged, but we're very, very pleased and, enthusiastic about the way you and your leadership team at the department has responded to the report. Thank you.
And Secretary Laird is in the building. And we've also asked him to make some comments. Thank you. Thanks for making it.
Thank you. And the Secretary of Interior just notified us that she was visiting us Wednesday night. So I just left a couple of hours with her and the governor, and I appreciate you accommodating that blip in the schedule. Let me say first and foremost, thank you to each of you for serving, because many of you I personally asked to serve, and at least one of you I had to apologize to along the way because it appeared to be more than I had represented when I asked you to do it. And I was really impressed with the engagement, people individually, looking at individually how much you guys even did track edits. It was really clear that you were engaged in the details all the way along. And I also wanted to thank you because in the last 2 weeks, some configuration of us, including Lisa and Michael Mantell, made 18 legislative visits and 7 editorial boards all across the state this week. And it was really impressive because we were hand in glove in how we presented and how we sat with those particular interests. And let me say clearly what I said in those places and at the editorial boards, which is the administration embraces this report and embraces the recommendations. And I think one of the interesting things at some of the editorial boards, they wanted to drill down on what was new. And we, in many ways, had to say a lot of this isn't new. What's new is that the Commission did an incredible process of going across the state listening to people, and did an incredible amount of work in market research, individual projects such as the cabins, in a way that it has brought thousands of people to the table that might not have been at the table as we look at where parks should be and where it is going in the next period of time. And I want to pick up on one thing that Lisa said, because it was this group that really said you need a transformation team. And the significant thing is, and we went through a similar process in the first year and a half of the administration with the then Fish and Game Department, where we had a legislative mandate. We had to look at it in detail with stakeholders and the public. And the biggest concern was, because with that, there was this fascinating thing. That report was the 7th that had been done in 50 years. And in my first or second weekend as secretary, I took the previous 6 reports home with me to try to understand why they all sat on the shelf. The very first Fish and Game report was done under the auspices of a legislative committee where Caspar Weinberger was mentioned. So it tells you how long people had discussed the same things without implementing them. And so we had the concern you did, is how do we make sure that does not happen here? And so the transformation team is key to that, because really Steve Zaley and the team will be looking at the long-term issues while Lisa is doing the day-to-day management of a 280-park system. And it's really hard to put on a team that's management the entire obligation to do the long-term change by itself. And it is important because structurally, and I know it's hard for some people that were outside to deal with what occasionally seems Byzantine in the state structure, is that it was very important that the head of the transformation team report to me, because it says that the administration has its full faith and credit in that long-term change. But it's also important that they be located right next to Lisa so nobody sees any difference between them, and they see that they're working together, and they see nobody is challenged by the other, that this is a mutual mission that we will move ahead. And as Lisa mentioned in talking about some of the initiatives, we felt like there's so many things to do and they're too important that we could not wait for every recommendation to come from the Commission, and that is why 4 or 5 of the initiatives we have started to march down the road on. And it's totally in concert with where the recommendations have come from the Commission. And I think is tried to be a signal of how serious we are about change and about addressing some of the structural issues. And Lisa mentioned the budget. It's also important because I think one of the hardest things that's been part of this is I have talked to many stakeholders. Some of them just viewed this as a way that we're going to get more money and resources to the park system, and as separate from some of the structural issues that have to be addressed. And as I've said in the editorial boards, channeling the governor, he really thinks it's important to address some of the structural long-term issues, to show that there's some change, and to then talk about money in a significant way when it's clear that we're identifying what's there, what's fixed, have the adequate information, some of which hasn't been prepared before. And so that, I think another of the concerns has been that somehow a team is in place for 2 years and then it's done, or the report really focuses to 1 year and it's done. That's why what you did looking out to 2025 and what we've done in saying that this is a long-term effort, nothing stops at a certain point, starts at a certain point. We just know that we need to address these issues continuously and show to the public, to the legislature, to the media that we are addressing these issues, and then it's important to see what it takes. And it was very interesting, believe me, when we were in Orange County and San Diego the day before yesterday at some of the editorial boards to get questions about what people's preconceived notions are about who goes to parks, who might go to parks, was to challenge them about making sure that the people in the Parks Department, the people come to parks, reflect California, reflect generational changes, reflect other diversity challenges in a way that we move it along. And I think the thing that best encapsulates it is I hate to cop to the fact that I'm old enough, that I had just become a teenager when the Civil Rights Bill was signed. And as somebody that hadn't had much experience with politics at the time, I thought, oh, thank heavens, we've dealt with that. And as you deal with reality, as you move into the system, you know you are constantly fighting that battle. You are constantly renewing the commitment. You're constantly educating people that weren't around at the time it was enacted on why it was important and what it means in the current context. And I think that is an analogous challenge that we have with parks. We have a system that's been there for 100 years. There are people that say, we do that because we've always done it that way. You just think of what California was like 100 years ago, and you think of how it's changed. And so how do you make sure that we have that process of renewal that exists within our system? And that is exactly why the Commission, its report, its role, some of the incredible research that was done in depth that didn't exist in other ways has been brought to the table. So I just wanted to provide that sort of overall context in addition to thanking you for your work. Say we look forward to the implementation process. And I had this realization last month that every day I came to work, I was closer to the end of my service as secretary than the beginning. And so we have the challenge of making a change that sticks, that we know will be there for the next governor or the next legislatures. And even it's a process of accepting change and institutionalizing change, we have to leave that. So I just wanted to say that in all the discussion of partnerships, we really want to be a partner, both with the Commission, the recommendations, many of the stakeholders that are sitting here that work at the local park level or in other ways. And I'm just very excited because we're really at a place that we were not at the time that this commission was appointed. So thank you very much, and I look forward to your action and look forward to everything we're going to do that comes from that.
Secretary Laird, I just want to hear if the commissioners have any response to the Secretary's remarks or any comments? Then I'll just say I want to thank you for your call that day to ask me to serve on Parks Forward almost 2 years ago. And it has been a really wonderful experience. And we've heard you say a number of times in the last few weeks, we embraced the report. We didn't wait for the report. We embraced it early. And that is the relationship we want to see go forward. And your leadership has been invaluable. You cannot reform if you've got roadblocks at the top. And you made it clear that that was not going to be happening here. So we look forward to continuing our vigilant observation of all the work that's being done by Parks, and we thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you.
I think now we are going to move on to public comment, which I'm very happy that so many people are here, and we have a number of cards. So if you have not filled in your card, please do so immediately. Otherwise, we're going to be wrapping up with Jack Harrison. Oh, no, we're not. We're going to be wrapping up with Albert Vickland. But first, we're going to start with Robert Doyle. I would ask that we limit the remarks to 3 minutes each, because as you can see, we have quite a few speakers. I'll call one speaker at a time, of course. So Robert Doyle is first, to be followed by Jose Gonzalez from Latino Outdoors, and then Kitty Adams from Adopt a Charger. And folks, if you're way up in the back, there's seats open in the front row, so you could come down and use it as a staging area for the podium. So Robert Doyle's from East Bay Regional Parks. Welcome, Mr. Doyle, and then we'll hear from Mr. Gonzalez and Ms. Adams.
Thank you very much, and thank you, members of the Commission. I want to thank you for your hard work. It's very important work, and your dedication to that work has been outstanding. Robert Doyle, I'm a co-chair of the State Park Partners Coalition and the general manager at the East Bay Regional Park District. My comments will be based on both of those organizations. Most of our partners is a coalition of urban park managers, large urban park agencies throughout the state. They tend to be heavily urban from the standpoint of LA, San Diego, San Jose, East Bay. Those are areas that have for a long time been partners with state parks. We are spending local money to manage and invest in state parks every day. This is money based on local taxpayers' initiatives. The users are diverse and the parks are heavily used. One of our biggest challenges, frankly, is managing the heaviest use of those parks in those urban areas, not trying to get more people to come, but managing the increased use that happens. The East Bay District alone spends $5 million a year operating state parks, and it has done so for over 50 years. So we've been a long-term partner. At Del Valle State Park, which we've operated and 400,000 people come every year, the water system there was built by the state park system. It will now cost us $3 million to replace that. We desperately need state parks partners, and we need the state park system to be our partner along with others. It has been 12 years since there's been any local money or state park money through a state park measure. As I visit many of the state parks, it seems the biggest recent investment is that of yellow caution tape. The caution tape is on picnic tables, buildings, railings, trails, bridges, and drinking fountains. We need to change that, and we need to change that soon. We think that your efforts will really help with that. I hope Parks Forward and the department makes a serious effort in partnerships as the promises and hopes are today. Please do not give us, your partners, broken parks and say, will you please take this over and fix it? We need to fix these parks together. I think there are many opportunities to do so. The report really emphasizes the need for urban access and better access to low-income people. Urban parks provide that already. Creating new urban parks may not be as important as partnering with existing parks to expand programs and partnerships at the local level. Urban parks are incredibly expensive to buy, manage, and develop. So partnering with others who already do that as a partnership with state parks is a real opportunity.
Thanks,
I will
Mr.
finish
Doyle.
up. 80 years ago, Newton Drury said, parks are more than picnicking places. He said there are places for memories and reveries. The earlier shots today of the photos showed that that is still true today.
Thanks, Mr. Doyle.
They're
Appreciate
very
it.
important for mental and physical health,
Thank
and
you.
we work together. Thank you.
Thanks very much. And there's many speakers today, so I will be kind of strict about the 3 minutes. Appreciate that. Jose Gonzalez from Latinos Outdoors.
Right.
Welcome.
Thank you. Buenos dias, and I appreciate the commission. Let me just quickly start off by saying that I really applaud, I want to celebrate, obviously, having a vision and saying, now, how can we make that happen? That is really crucial because it's that question of how do we get from here to there. And so I have a privilege to be here with you representing a lot of what you're talking about. I'm not as young as I would like to be, but I'm at the upper edge of the millennial, first generation, I know, right? Immigrant, English language learner. So that helps me a lot with the connections. I work with the communities that we engage with in the Central Valley and other parts of California. And it's crucial for me to come here and state that, I'm not here to be the voice of the community, but be a voice. And so as we moved with the implementation and say, how do we make this work equitable, is really being able to listen to that. Because even myself, when I look here and I point out, how would I have, if I'm not here, who gets to be here to help me be a voice for the communities that we want to reach out to? And how important it is for really think about what does that equitable leadership access looks like. So I want to point that out, that the opportunities are there because there are a lot of individuals and communities that want to be involved and want to participate, and that they are already there, as we're seeing through social media. So it's really about bridging the disconnect rather than thinking that there's a story of we're not here. And it is important to say, aquí estamos, we are present. And so to move beyond the idea that a lot of our communities can be objects of programming, like let's just have a new program for them, but rather say, really pay attention to what this data is showing us. How are we already here present, and what can we do to support, to elevate that, and also support the leadership infrastructure that will elevate this work up so that, as the quote says, you're at the table or you're on the table, right? And also, it's a question of how do you even get to know that there's a chair and who helps you to get there. So really examining that because, as we're going to move on this, we just joined the Parks Now coalition to be able to say we want to be represented in this leadership. And so we've been taking communities out into our state parks and to connect with the outdoors. Now it's important to be able to connect with other leaders in different areas in health and education to be able to move this forward and making sure that we are working together on the implementation. So my final ask on that is just to point out to you, we do want to help, but making sure that it's not just an idea of, well, let's just bring you here and make it happen. It's how do we invest in each other? That's the real last point that I want to put in. What do you bring to the table and want to invest in the relationships with the leaders that want to support you do this? Because we do want to make this happen. Gracias.
Thank you for your engagement with the Cali Parks and other aspects of our work. Next is Kitty Adams from Adopt a Charger, to be followed by Matt Yarbrough, and then Carolyn Christian. Welcome, Kitty.
Thank you. My name is Kitty Adams. I'm the Executive Director of Adopt a Charger, a nonprofit organization that's a very proud partner of the California State Parks, and I seek out funding to install electric vehicle chargers. We're on track for our first 30, and we hope to expand this program to 100. I'm so proud to be working with the parks. I say we because I feel a lot of ownership and have my whole life enjoyed state parks, not just in California, but all across the country. And I just want to applaud you for the work you're doing, but also at the same time give a little word of caution from my experience as a nonprofit that's actively out there pursuing money for the parks. And I've talked to a lot of my friends at places like the Sierra Club, NRDC, the National Parks Foundation, different environmental nonprofits that are all out there actively seeking this money. And I got to say that it's not easy. I'll be the very first one in line to stand there and ask for money for you guys because we need it. We got to keep doing that. But I also wanted to make sure with my nonprofit, what I try to emphasize is a three-prong approach to fundraising. So yes, we're going to go after those corporate sponsors, but I also want to emphasize the importance of going after those $50 and $100 donators, really engaging with your user group to get them vested in the success of the park system. And I know you guys have got a lot of innovative ideas that you've done, but just ways to promote maybe the license plate that you talked about or the National Park Passport, get those individual users to really feel like they need to contribute to the solution. And then the third part, which I've been recently having success with, is looking for grant funding. So I was able to secure a grant from the California Energy Commission to pursue this project, and we've got a strategy going forward to seek more funding. Then the last thing I wanted to comment about, this is where the passion comes from. When I first started talking and working with Ruth Coleman 3 years ago, the hot topic was the Cool Parks Initiative, and I just want to keep that forefront in everybody's mind that, ultimately we are supporting the mission statement of the California State Parks, and I want to make sure that, when we're starting to look at innovative approaches that we stay focused and grounded in our mission of why we're all here and what we want to do. And thank you for giving me the time to share that.
Thank you, Kitty, and thanks for all your hard work, making our parks more open to different modes of transportation. So now we're going to move to Matt Yarbrough from RPPOA, followed by Carolyn Christian, and then Dr. Gerald Jackman. Welcome, Mr. Yarbrough.
Thank you. Hello, my name is Matt Yarbrough, Ranger Yarbrough, and I represent the State Park Peace Officers, the Resource Protection Peace Officers of California. We're the official union of the California Statewide Law Enforcement Association, and we represent state park rangers, lifeguards, and fish and wildlife officers. And we would like to first start with our greatest praise of this organization and thank the Parks Board Commission for their dedication, hard work in improving the state park system. Our organization would also like to thank the director, the Secretary, and the newly formed transition team, and we fully extend our organization's support and assistance in any way possible. I, our board, and our advisors are available anytime, day or night, to assist whenever possible. As many of you know, the Rangers and Lifeguards are the backbone of the state park system, not only providing world-class public safety with one of the best community policing models out there, but we also run the parks at the unit level. Our Rangers and Lifeguards run the kiosks, the museums, the campgrounds, the beaches, the mountains, the lakes, the many day-use areas. The State Park Rangers and Lifeguards strive to make California State Park System the best in the world, and many of us still believe in the seventh generation concept which state parks connected with and once dreamed of. We need to think big, work together, design a sustainable structure which will carry our department's mission into the future for all who walk our trails and find serenity in our beaches. We look forward to the hard work set out before us in the Parks Forward report. We embrace productivity and efficiency, and our officers have the knowledge, skill, and experience to give the critical perspectives and advice on how to implement the Parks Forward report. I'd like to thank you and say we are at your service.
Thanks very much, Mr. Yarbrough. We really appreciate your membership's working at our parks every day, so appreciate it. Thank you for being here. Next is Carolyn Christian, president of CALPA, California League of Park Associations. Welcome.
Thank you. First of all, I'd like to thank the Commission for all their great work. We are very excited about many of the recommendations in the report. I represent the California League of Park Associations. We are the networking group, the umbrella group for all the 89 nonprofits that support California state parks. And I'm also president of Friends of Pio Pico, which is the nonprofit that supports Pio Pico State Historic Park, one of those little urban parks in Los Angeles, California. And of course, we represent great ethnic diversity and applaud that portion of the report. But on the statewide level, first of all, I'd like to have a show of hands of those people in the audience that are working with one of the nonprofit organizations that support the parks.
Excellent. Thank you for your work. Our thanks.
So we have 89 organizations that are cooperating associations or nonprofit partners. Since 1997, we have invested, donated $150 million in our California state parks. And we have worked very hard alongside our state park system and been very instrumental in keeping many of those 70 parks that were on the closure list from closing. So we want to continue those efforts and applaud the direction that the report has suggested, but we'd like to make a few additional suggestions. First of all, we are very interested in the forward move of the report and the department, and our conference this year reflects that in its title. It's called Thinking Big, Realizing the Possibilities with California State Parks, and that's going to be happening this April in Anza Borrego. So you are all invited to attend. We welcome your participation. Our suggestions are this. Given our place in saving our parks from the closures, we would like to have a place at the table in the transformation team. Currently, there are no nonprofit partners on that team. So we would like to suggest that, given our role, we play a more significant role in the actual transformation of the parks. Secondly, we'd like to suggest an even playing field for the different districts. Some districts are very well organized. Some have issues with communications and relations that we'd like to see given more prominence, and so a more even playing field. And third, we'd like to propose a new role in state parks, and that would be a deputy director that would specifically focus on the nonprofit partners. So that was one of our most important suggestions we'd like to make. Again, we'd like to applaud your efforts. We stand ready and willing to support you in what we do. We're a bit concerned about the new nonprofit organization and our role with it, so we'd like to have a place at the table in that development if that comes to fruition. And we appreciate all that you've done, and we look forward to working with you. Thank you.
Thank you for your 3 recommendations. The transformation team is sitting right behind you, so we will definitely take those under advisement. That was Ms. Christian. Next is Dr. Gerald Jackman, followed by Darla Ginsler, followed by Mark Pecotich. If I'm ruining your name, you can correct me when I get up here, and then Bob Berman. Welcome, Dr. Jackman.
Thank you very much. My name is Dr. Jackman, as you mentioned. I'm the CEO of the Santa Barbara Trust for Historic Preservation. We are one of the partners with California State Parks. We operate El Presidio de Santa Barbara State Historic Park. I used to call myself the 282 man because when I visited all the state parks, there were 282 listed. So now I'm the 279 man, but I'm happy with that. So I've seen all the parks. I really appreciate it. I think they're incredible places, and I really appreciate what you've done as a commission. I like the report. I want to thank Ken Weissman for his work. I spent many hours with him just chatting about what we do at the Presidio. If this nonprofit comes to fruition, I would like you to think about a couple of things, that there'll be challenges. I worked on a blue ribbon committee with the director a few years ago, and you can set this up and you can start raising money, but the challenge is supplanting, and some of you know about that, but as soon as you have money over here, somebody says, well, they have money over there. So it's a big issue that I think can be dealt with, and I have some ideas, which I could tell you about, but not right now because I only have a couple of minutes, of how we could work something out where this, say you do this new nonprofit, how it could work with the nonprofits down below that are below them out in the districts. And there are many of them that have really done great work, and I think the Trust is a classic example of that. I did want to mention that the Trust for Historic Preservation is really a model for what you're looking for out there. And first of all, we have an endowment. We're the only state park that has a $6 million endowment that supports it. And it's a quasi-endowment. I'd have to explain that in some detail so you know what I meant by that. But it supports the park, and there's no other park that has anything quite like that. Now, I know you can't expect that all 280 state parks will have a $6 million endowment, but say they did, you would have there almost $2 billion, and think about how much money you could get that would be supporting the parks if you had something like that. The other thing that we bring to the table that's really important in building a relationship with the department is a highly professional staff. We have historians, we have anthropologists, we have archaeologists on my staff, but also on our board we have a number of professional people, and that's something that's going to be really important in building these relationships, this professionalization of the nonprofit. And lastly, the third thing we do is we reach out to the Latino community and the Asian community. We have programs for we have an advantage because the Asian community was part of the Presidio State Park area in its time, but we take advantage of that and we put on programs every year. And we also have a Latino event, more than one, doing Pastorella, which is a Christmas play that's happened on the site for years. With that, I see my time is up. Thank you. We're here to help, and I'm happy to share my knowledge of 30-something years with the Trust for Historic Preservation.
Thank you, Doctor. And good work in Santa Barbara. Next is Darla Ginsler from the California Council of Land Trusts, then Mark, who's going to tell me how to pronounce his name, and then Bob Berman.
Good morning. Thank you to the commissioners. My name is Darla Ginsler. I'm the Executive Director of the California Council of Land Trusts, which is an association for more than 200 land trusts that work in every community around the state. I wanted to thank you today for the Commission's hard work, as well as Secretary Laird, the Director of the Department, Resources Legacy Fund, Ken Weissman, and everyone that has worked so hard on leading a statewide conversation about California's parks. Your work and recommendations go so far beyond the particular challenges that brought us all together to begin this project, and has really triggered a product that offers us a very smart, strategic, and achievable plan to begin the long-term work of addressing the issues that the department has had for many years, as well as offering a pathway to creating a parks system and a department for the 21st century that is worthy of California and importantly serves all Californians. We fully support your recommendations. We realize a great deal of work is to come, as Lisa Magnan discussed, but important work that both the Commission demonstrated today with your early work, which is so incredible. Some of the monkey wrench projects, or I think as Lance called it, but also the work that the department already has underway is we're very excited about the direction that the department's moving and the recommendations of this report, and we stand ready to partner, support, and assist your efforts of the transformation team, the department, and the Commission. Thank you so much for your work.
Darla, thanks for all your hard work, too, for open space. Mark? And then Bob Berman, and then Elizabeth Goldstein. Elizabeth?
Good morning.
Good morning.
You actually got the name right.
Did I the first time? And then I chickened out.
Pecotich, Mark Pecotich. I'm a local volunteer with California State Parks, working specifically on natural surface trails for multi-users, hikers, trail runners, mountain bikers, equestrians, high school kids, and families of all ethnicities who actively use state parks trails. I am a full-time working professional like you, but I'm enjoying my casual Friday today, so I didn't suit it up. Hope that's okay.
We're talking parks. You look fine.
Good. I spend 15 to 20 hours of my free time every week on state parks projects, working on advocacy, restoration, trail maintenance efforts. So it was fitting that we look today at Auburn State Recreational Area. On Sunday, I'll actually be leading a group of volunteers out there to brush a trail right on those trails we were looking at today.
Cool.
So that's a top priority in terms of parks amenities for us, encouraging recreation, connectivity with nature, family outings, and generational stewardship and appreciation for the outdoors. I look forward to implementing the outcomes of this report and working closely with the transformation team and local park staff in fulfilling the opportunities it presents. You have my complete support and the support of many others, volunteer groups that I work with in this region to make this come true. Over the years, as you talked about, parks has a tendency to create a lot of things, reports, surveys, plans, and have great ideas on paper that never seem to implement it. Some of the things that we've been looking at locally are 15 years in the works and just haven't made it there yet because of parks staff, and also a lot having to do with the policy involved in moving things forward. So it's my sincere hope that time has changed and the recommendations from this report will be acted upon in earnest. And as the director said, the heavy lifting's ahead, I believe, as well. To ensure this occurs, besides the path to leadership, consider putting metrics in place and performance guarantees that staff must meet to encourage the proactive work that goes on with this and actually leverages volunteers because you have to meet those metrics and needs. Think about your depth of the bench that the volunteers create, you know, not only our brains but our brawn and everything that we bring with it, the experience that we have from our professional settings and how that contributes to parks. In encouraging more people to do that, we also have to increase the trail capacity that exists at state parks right now. A lot of these have gone from rural to urban trail systems, and now they're oversaturated with use, and so we have to grow as well as part of this outreach. And you'll need the labor and funding to do all that, and we're here to support you in any way we can. So once again, I second everything that was discussed today so far. It sounds like a great plan, and we're willing to do whatever it takes to help you get there. Thank you.
Thank you for your support and for all your volunteer contributions. Next is Bob Berman from Benicia State Park Association, Elizabeth Goldstein, and then Debbie Peterson. Welcome, Mr. Berman.
Thank you. Yes, I'm Bob Berman with the Benicia State Parks Association. We assist the state with the Benicia Capitol State Historic Park and the Benicia State Recreation Area. And first off, we do want to say that we agree with the majority of the Commission's report. We fully agree that major changes are absolutely necessary in the state park system, and we support the work that you're doing. And I also appreciate the comments from the director this morning in terms of the steps that they're taking. But two specific concerns that I would like to mention, and this is a little bit of a follow-up from the comments you've heard from the California League of Park Associations, and that is I would like to see a greater emphasis in the report specifically of the role that the nonprofit partners, referred to by the state as cooperating associations, play in the operation of the parks. I understand that you all appreciate that and that that's a big effort, but quite frankly, reading through the report, it didn't come through to me that there was that appreciation. I think there should be greater recognition that volunteers, especially the cooperating association, play in the operation of state parks. In regards to that, I would make two recommendations. On page 43 of your report, there are, at the bottom of the report, in very small type, there are a couple of recommendations that refer to volunteers and refers to partners. And I would recommend that perhaps those could be revised a little bit to specifically mention the nonprofit partners or the cooperating associations as called for by the state. I think that would really help. I would also agree with the previous recommendation to ensure that cooperating associations have a seat at the table as part of the transformation team. And then just quickly, I wanted to mention, I understand the issue about the funding and the fact that this is not looking at short-term funding, but I think I'm concerned that the report does not address the park system's current fiscal problems. As I understand the governor's proposed project, the hours of operation, the staffing at the two Benicia parks will continue to suffer in the short term. And I would suggest that there be a recommendation to increase funding for the continued operation of state parks in this coming fiscal year. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, and for your contributions in Benicia. Elizabeth Goldstein, President of the California State Parks Foundation, followed by Debbie Peterson, and then Bonnie Hawley. Welcome, Elizabeth.
Good morning. We really want to congratulate the commissioners on your final report. We know that you've all given tremendous time and talent to this endeavor, and on behalf of our 130,000 members statewide, thank you. We appreciate the new attention and insight you've applied to the challenges facing state parks. And as we have said to many people who have asked us about this report in the last week, while your report's release signifies the end of your formal charge, we see it as a beginning. The beginning of a new chapter that we hope will be characterized by deep and productive collaboration among all state park stakeholders, and by bringing innovative thinking to the task of coming up with specific programs, initiatives, and outcomes that are teed up by your report and need more work to bring to life. The next chapter for state parks will require a disciplined approach amongst all of us to come together in prioritizing the most critical next steps and applying our collective assets and skills. As a park community, we cannot delay. We cannot succumb to paralysis from protracted processes or analysis or rehashing old ways. Achieving a future that is characterized by excellent programs that inspire kids and families, excellent facilities that attract visitors looking for novel ways to explore state parks, excellent connections to schools and education systems that result in giving every single student access to state parks, whether virtually or through in-park visits, and much, much more. That pursuit of excellence starts for all of us today. We commend the department for establishing their transformation team late last year, and we have enthusiastically accepted their invitation to serve on an external advisory committee. We look forward to participating with them soon. We know that the transformation team has much on its plate, and we fully appreciate their laser focus on the aspects of excellence that are related to internal changes to the department's systems, policies, and culture. That alone is a hefty set of objectives to achieve in 2 years. We stand very ready, willing, and able to help on those where appropriate, but are most looking forward to bringing our experience and leadership to areas such as partnership, marketing, and outreach, to name a few. As you all know, in 2011, we released a vision for excellence for state parks with the Save the Redwoods League. Shortly after that release, 70 state parks were slated for closure, and we pivoted from reaching for excellence in favor of keeping our state parks open and intact. The Parks Forward Commission's report signifies another key pivot for all of us, turning away from negativity of the past and beginning towards excellence. We thank you. We stand ready on our 40 years of experience to do just that.
Thank you very much, Elizabeth, and thank you for all the work of the foundation. Debbie Peterson, Bonnie Hawley, and then Rick Lemry. Can we help her with that, please? There. Welcome.
Thank you very much. I'm Debbie Peterson from the City of Grover Beach, and I'm here today representing also the Pismo Coast Association of Realtors. I'm on their political action committee, and I'm also the former mayor of Grover Beach, the most recent past mayor. So,
welcome.
Thank you. So I'm here with two hats on, really, but we agree. I had the privilege of working with state parks on our beachfront hotel and conference center, which the Coastal Commission passed while I was mayor, and also the city has had the privilege of working with them for decades. And we want you to know how grateful we are for how well they manage 19 miles of Oceano Dunes vehicle recreation area. They manage fire, they manage water, they manage sewage. They're basically a city, and it's managed by a very small staff, and I'm so impressed by that. They're a huge contribution for us economically. We're very grateful for that in the community. And one of the things we'd like to suggest, we love having our free parking at the beach. We love being able to operate there at very low cost. I actually live and have my real estate office just a block from the beach. We're wondering if you would consider in the future combining the Coastal Commission and state parks. And we ask because, number one, it would save money, of course, and as realtors, economics matter. But we also wonder, because you have the same remit, you're under the same umbrella, you want access for all, and you want conservation. And what we found is that we have real trouble with we've talked a lot about nonprofits working and communities working together and local governments, but not a lot has been said about the state working together on things. And what we find when we try to do anything is that our hands are tied. Our hands are tied because anywhere on our coast, and probably up and down the coast, we have to work with the Army Corps of Engineers, we have to work with state parks, we have to work with varying jurisdictions and districts, we have to work with state parks. Did I say that already? And all of us are on the same page, but we all have so many restrictions that our hands are tied and we can't get things done. So, for example, at Pismo Coast, with our hotel and conference center, we really needed to provide staging for equestrians, safe staging, and also staging for the vehicles. And our county, for 20, 30 years, has said they want to do this. But our problem is that most of the area we have is protected, is ESHA, and so we've been unable to do that. We've been unable even to restore dunes because there are a few protected plants on them. So, asking if you could consider the economics and also the internal benefits of streamlining the state agencies. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your suggestion. Next is Bonnie Hawley from Friends of Santa Cruz State Parks, Rick Lemry, Sam Hodder. Welcome.
Good morning. I'm Bonnie Hawley, Executive Director of Friends of Santa Cruz State Parks. We're an entrepreneurial nonprofit working to sustain the legacy of our state parks and beaches, and we're really proud of our 39-year history of working in partnership with state parks. I want to thank you for three key things in the report. First of all, for stressing the importance of partnerships, for making sure that the department is going to be well positioned to continue to work well with partners, but also making sure the department will have the assistance and the resources of a new outside entity. Our organization has already been working with the department to implement some key initiatives, including access to technology. Last March, we rolled out the use of credit cards and ATM cards at Big Basin State Parks, which is our first state park, and we thought it was a good idea to start there since it's a 20-minute drive to the nearest ATM. And by the end of this year, we'll be rolled out at all of the state parks and beaches in the Santa Cruz district. We stand ready to assist you with the implementation of this report on the ground. In fact, our board of directors adopted our new 3-year strategic plan last week, and included in that were some really key recommendations, including increasing revenue to state parks, welcoming communities that reflect California into our parks, to our events, and into our workforce, and also for working with you to find a sustainable funding source for state parks. So thank you for your efforts, and we look forward to working with you.
Thank you for your brevity. Appreciate it. We're about halfway through the speaker, folks. Rick Lemry, Sam Hodder, Michael Spinners, I think it is.
Thank you very much. Rick Lemire, Executive Director of the John Marsh Historic Trust in Contra Costa County. I wanted to also say thank you very much for the great report. I was very excited to see a lot of what was in there. And I was especially happy to hear Director Bignot talk about what's going on in LA and how that's serving sort of as a petri dish for getting things done using existing resources and redeveloping relationships that already exist. We have there's a lot of that available out there. We're also a member of the California League of Park Associations, and there are 90 other organizations out there ready to step in and become a kind of work in progress thing. In our own state park, which is 3,700 acres of state historic park, it's not open yet. We're trying to help get to where that is, but we also have a relationship that we're developing with East Bay Regional Park District and Mr. Doyle to get those trails that they have connected with what's possible in the park. So I just want to make sure that we may be reinventing the car here as far as the way the department works, but we don't have to reinvent the wheels also. So let's keep those in mind, what's out there already. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rick. Thank you. Next, Sam Hodder, and then Michael Summers, and then Tom Stratton. Welcome.
Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak to you today. My name is Sam Hodder. I'm President and CEO of Save the Redwoods League. And as brevity is not my strong suit, I'm going to go ahead and read. And I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to comment. Save the Redwoods League enthusiastically supports the Parks Forward report, a great step in ensuring a strong future for California state park system. Having partnered with state parks for much of our 97-year history, the League is deeply invested in the future of the department. From our role in land acquisition to advancing research on climate change to building bridges and trails and designing and printing state park brochures, the League takes great pride in our park support activities over the years. With the adoption of the recommendations in this report, we will stand shoulder to shoulder with our state parks partner and will be prepared to increase our investment in our Redwood parks. Save the Redwoods League is exploring how to deepen our engagement in improving California's redwood parks, and many of the recommendations in this report represent enabling conditions that will facilitate that deeper engagement. Through partnering on forest restoration and natural resources management, upgrading park infrastructure, and enhancing education and interpretation programming, our members are eager to support the League's deeper engagement. We are thrilled to see the Department and the Resources Agency embracing a commitment to fundamental change through the creation of the transformation team. We congratulate Director Mangat and Steve Zalay and the entire team on engaging on a deliberate path forward for the future. We support their efforts to improve the operating systems, budgeting, contracting, and the engagement of partners, and we share the Commission's commitment to increasing outdoor education for young people, investing in natural resource management and climate research in the parks, and expanding park access for California's underserved and urban communities. As stated in the report, of course, all these transformative opportunities will be dependent on ensuring stable and public funding. California state parks are the envy of the world. The parks are our economic engine of our tourist economy. They keep our children healthy and active. They help clean our air and water, and they tell the story of our diverse history and cultures. This is true of the full range of parks from the inner city to wilderness, from our beaches to historic sites. But the redwoods hold a special place in the department's legacy. Whether the sequoia of the Mariposa Grove or the coast redwoods of Humboldt, we know that it is California's redwood forest that inspired the creation of our park system and that continue to inspire California's visitors from around the world. And it is the redwoods and our investment therein that will inspire the next generation of Californians who love the outdoors. The League stands ready to amplify that investment and help to restore and to reintroduce the redwood forests to the people of California and beyond. On behalf of our board and staff, we want to express our most sincere respect and appreciation for the expertise and months of work of the Parks Forward Commission and all that you have done. The report reflects careful thought and a strong commitment to the mission of the department. and represents a substantial step forward towards a stronger future for state parks.
Thank you, Sam. Thank you. And next is Michael Summers, Tom Stratton, and then Mike Connor. Mr. Summers.
Good morning, Commissioners. Thank you for allowing me to speak today. I really come representing myself, but with three hats. I've been a manager with the state of California for 25 years. I'm also a private consultant working in the organizational development and change management arena. And I'm also a California citizen that gets to enjoy all these wonderful assets. So I come to you today really in just broad-based support for your effort and your recommendations with these three hats in mind. As such, I've been tracking the progress of the Commission, your draft reports, and as they've come forward and developed. And I'm really here just to provide support and encouragement and to applaud you all, to thank you all for this endeavor. As I mentioned, I've been involved as a state manager in the area of organizational change for 25 plus years. And trust me, for many years I was sort of the lone soldier carrying that banner and talking about transformation in the public sector. But it's been a dedication and a commitment of mine to do so. It's very obvious that you've done a very thorough job of vetting this. As Co-Chair Khan represented or made comments earlier, there were other reports out there. You just simply didn't take pieces and parts and put a new wrapper around it. There's been much analysis, much discussion, conversations with a variety of stakeholders around California. It's obvious by the number of nonprofits that are here today, such that your recommendations and your vision are just not that of the Commission, but of a broad base and should have a lot of support and also a lot of credibility and viability. I also want to acknowledge the Department, obviously, for taking this report and the ideas and running with it, as evidenced by the examples of the things that have already been accomplished and the support for it. I just simply wanted to say that, I find your recommendations bold and creative and the kind of entrepreneurship that I do believe that we need and is possible in the public sector. The fact that you've been willing to kind of rethink what is a state park, what is a state park system, and the transformative effort that's now being undertaken by the Department. And the fact that it's been codified in the Governor's budget gives us a lot of encouragement. This whole concept of public and private partnerships is, I think, at the heart of this and why this can be successful as you look at the transformation effort, the partnership effort, and the expanded access to all Californians. So with these three hats and someone who's been trying to carry this charge for a long time, it's very encouraging to see such a broad base of support, and I look forward to the continued success. And again, thank you for your effort.
Thank you for your support. Tom Stratton, President of Friends of Allensworth, welcome. Next, Mike Connor, after Mr. Stratton, and then Jack Harrison. Welcome.
Thank you. Good morning. Again, my name is Thomas Stratton. I'm here representing the California League of Park Associations and also Friends of Allensworth. I want to thank you all for your diligence and your ability to really summarize a complex system. I think the 279 units and the complexity I realized as a student researcher. I began a little over 20 years ago and have yet to kind of really fully, I think, understand what we have here in California. Want to really take the time to really kind of just give my experience really quick with Colonel Allensworth State Historic Park. The feeling we get when we look at redwoods or an ocean view is powerful. That cultural history that we have at Allensworth, that's what hit me. When I went there as a student, the effect on me was not the same as a redwood, but it was as powerful. And I think that's been pointed out, and want to just co-sign on that with you all, to say that I think you're really onto something, and we appreciate that. The other thing is the power of the nonprofits. I think that has been brought up. And for us, Allensworth, the knowledge base is really shared. We definitely share that with all of you, Parks and Recreation. It's shared, and the experience, I think, is very much exists in our volunteers at Allensworth. We have an experience that is very much rooted in our volunteers, many of whom are descendants, etc. So wanted to pass that on, compliment you, and look forward to the next 2 years and a follow-up. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us. Appreciate the comments.
Can I add a comment?
Absolutely. Commissioner Wu has a comment.
I just wanted to make a comment in response to the gentleman's question, or your comments. My wife and I were driving up Highway 99 a few months ago to go pick some nectarines around Fresno, and we noticed, we found on a map that Allensworth Park was there, so we made a detour, went over there, and I wanted to say it was very worth going to. And in a recent question from a radio reporter about whether it was important for people to be able to see people who look like them going to state parks, I specifically pointed to Allensworth as an example of how people who don't look like people who may be at the park, that it's important for not only African Americans to see Allensworth, but actually it's a good example of how the state park system has resources that may have some special resonance for people, members of a particular ethnic group, but in the case of historic parks like Allensworth, it really should be all Californians and not only African Americans who understand the significance of it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good dialogue. Thank you. Next is Mike Connor from the Nature Conservancy, Jack Harrison, and then Annie Pham. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioners, for giving me the opportunity to speak on the Parks Forward initiative. My name is Mike Connor. I'm a Senior Project Director with the Nature Conservancy, and I'm here on behalf of both our policy and conservation programs. I've been with the Nature Conservancy for 14 years, focused primarily on land protection, for biodiversity, and for people. The Nature Conservancy applauds the efforts of the Parks Forward Commission in developing these ambitious recommendations to bring our parks into the 21st century so that they will be relevant to and resonate with today's and future generations as our parks help define California's historic, cultural, and natural heritage. How many of us have committed our lives to conservation based on park experiences? There are a few elements that the Nature Conservancy is especially excited about. Urban parks. We need to provide all Californians the opportunity for outdoor experiences in many forms and locales so that they too can form their own unique connection to nature and understand how it sustains people. Managing park habitats for connectivity, resilience, and climate change. This type of management is critical if we want habitat and its wild inhabitants to survive and prosper. Dedicating a secure source of funds for all parks. This too is essential to parks' longevity and resilience. I personally love the concept of a permanent state parks endowments funded by both public and private sectors. The Nature Conservancy supports the proposed recommendations and looks forward to continuing our many partnerships with the California State Parks through the 22nd century. Thank you.
Thank you. And next is Jack Harrison. Welcome, Mr. Harrison, from California Parks Hospitality Association.
Yes, good morning, Commissioners. I am Jack Harrison, Executive Director, California Parks Hospitality Association. On behalf of the concessionaires throughout the state park system, the CPHA appreciates the work that you've done and the opportunity to comment on your report. The state park system primarily functions because of 5 groups of people who share a commitment to our state parks. These include the employees of the department, local government agencies, nonprofit groups, volunteers, and contract service providers, aka concessionaires. It is appropriate that working more collaboratively with partners is one of the 4 themes within your recommendations. We concur with this priority as well as the need for a transformed department, expanded access to the state park system, and a stable funding source. Although we agree with most of the recommendations in the report, we believe some could be changed and others added. For example, the 10-year vision within the plan should be 5 years. The creation of a 2-year transformation team reflects an urgency for change, while a 10-year vision may not. The creation of Parks California nonprofit may be a duplication with the purpose and capabilities of at least 2 existing statewide leadership park groups. Rather than create a third nonprofit group, the department should do more to support and collaborate with the California Parks and Recreation Society and the California State Park Foundation. The recommendations for the department to take the lead in expanding overnight lodging should be revised to encourage entities with expertise in lodging options to initiate such projects. Concessionaires have been building and managing alternative lodging in national and state parks for decades. The recommendations for a Parks California to develop a business plan should be expanded to include a business plan for every park within the state park system. Department staff, volunteers, and concessionaires within each park could work together to develop and implement a business plan for each park. Although the Parks Forward plan sets forth a 2-year implementation recommendations, there is no mention of accountability for measuring and reporting of progress. I'm delighted to hear earlier that you're going to be continuing. However, the report, while you have done a great job of involving lots of stakeholders for these past 2 years, we believe that there should be built into your commitment to the stakeholders at least an annual progress report involving the stakeholders once again. So again, we commend you. We thank you for your good work. The contract service providers within the parks, we stand ready to do our part and to add our expertise to the work that lies ahead.
Thank you so much for your comments. Appreciate that. Annie Pham, Policy Advocate for Sierra Club California, followed by Ben McHugh and Outdoor Outreach and his colleagues, and then the final speaker will be Albert Vicklin. Ms. Pham, go right ahead.
Thank you. I just wanted to start by saying thank you for all the hard work that was put into this process and the report, and we really support a lot of the recommendations that was put forward, especially some that has already been taken, that the department has already moved forward with, such as the transformation team, updating the accounting system, and also the pathway to leadership. We are also very excited about the focus on access, increasing access to parks, especially making transportation affordable, focusing on the diversity in California, and engaging youth, and we think that is very important for the parks to survive. There are some things that we feel that could use some strengthening in the report. We really appreciate the highlight and focus on managing natural resources, but we feel that moving forward, the department should have clear guidelines and best practices in place for managing these areas, just so that there's clear management methods. And we really support the science-based management methods as mentioned in the report. And then for the transformation team, we feel that there should be a clear sort of pathway, and I know that there will be progress updates, but just a pathway for the public to engage and to comment on the progress and actions of the transformation team. The other thing that we're still concerned about, we've mentioned before, is the new nonprofit entity, Parks California. We just want to make sure that there's transparency and accountability for that nonprofit, especially that it's going to be responsible for a lot of things, overseeing a lot of important decisions for the department. So we just want to make sure that there's a way for the public to keep track of their progress and their actions and ways to comment, and that's going to be very important for us. One thing we want to mention specifically is on page 43, towards the bottom, there's a mention of the importance of working effectively with partners and linking that to employee performance goal. When we read that, it sort of raised a red flag a little bit. We want to make sure that while partnerships, and we're not opposed to that at all, the way that it's written, it may make it difficult for park employees to disagree with Parks California. So for instance, if there's a partnership in place and the partner's not managing the parks properly, there should be there shouldn't be any disincentives for department employees to comment on that and disagree with the management methods. Lastly, is we just want to make sure that there are clear guidelines for partnerships, and we're ready to help, and especially with the access to parks, we have a lot of programs, and we would love to partner on that. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments. Ben McHugh, followed by Laura Guerrero, and I've got to put on my glasses. Dion West. And you folks, come on right down, and you can stand behind Ben. Come on down. Steve? Yeah. He's not usually an impediment. Okay. Ben, go right ahead.
Sure.
Go right ahead.
Good morning, and thanks so much for the opportunity to be with you once again. I'm really appreciative of the output of this commission, which specifically is the great report that's come out, but even more appreciative of the outcome of this commission's work, which I think really has been to create a mobilization of the community behind parks and strengthening parks and getting new stakeholders like ourselves involved. Specifically, I think one of the challenges for the transformation team is going to be how to continue this effective listening tour that you guys have created throughout the state in terms of how do you keep it open, the communication open and accessible to communities that are non-traditional park voices. For outdoor outreach, this initiative has really allowed us to see ourselves in a different light. And in answer to Secretary Laird's comment, we really wouldn't be here today, I think, looking at how to systemically change parks if it wasn't for the Parks Initiative, their meeting that they had down in San Diego last year. And I think looking at what the Commission, its focus has been, I mean, you've not only met with us and asked us to present to you at the August meeting in San Diego, but also came out with our youth instructors to learn how to stand up paddleboard on San Diego Bay. And I know for some, Ken, that might have been a traumatic experience, but it was fantastic. And it was really great to see commissioners.
What about Julie? She didn't get wet?
Julie had no problem. She didn't even get wet. And also this initiative has really been a catalyst to connect us with other park supporters across the state with whom we can partner. And just like Latino Outdoors, we've recently joined the Parks Now Coalition and look forward to kind of to advocate for park issues in California that specifically resonate with those diverse urban communities in which we come from. For our youth participants and leaders, including Dion and Laura, who are here with us today, this initiative has been a great opportunity to think about their own and their community's connections to parks and the outdoors, and to share their experiences and recommendations with you. I hope that as we listen to their comments, we can all find motivation in their passion and commitment to do everything they can, including flying and giving public comment here today for the very first time, to improve access to parks and to help other youth develop a transformative connection to the outdoors. Thank you.
Thanks, Ben, and we're glad that outdoor outreach is part of the advisory, Parks Now. Great. So, Laura Guerrero, welcome. Please come on up and give us your comments.
Commissioners, thank you for the opportunity to speak with you and for your support of our parks. My name is Laura Guerrero. I'm 19 years old, and I am an assistant field instructor for outdoor outreach. I strongly agree with your recommendations to increase park access to more youth from urban, diverse communities. I joined Outdoor Outreach as a participant in 2012 through their after-school program at my high school and through the support of positive role models and my peers. I experienced the outdoors for the first time and gained a whole new perspective in life. In a cave hike in Joshua Tree, we had to go through a really tight spot between two huge boulders, and I was really scared and thought there was no way I would make it, you know. I didn't believe in myself, but my peers and the staff were really supportive, and I made it. After that, I felt if I can do that, I could do anything. And that is one of the greatest feelings I have ever experienced. Through participating in outdoor activities, I gained confidence and experience working with new people. I may have never made it to college without outdoor outreach, and now I am a sophomore at Kiamaka Community College. Since being a part of outdoor outreach, my perception of the environment has changed. I encourage others to recycle and encourage them to protect the places where we play. I also encourage my family and friends to go outside and experience nature with me. I believe that by engaging one person, you can engage an entire community and create a culture of the outdoors. Employment opportunities are a great way to engage young people in the outdoors. Through my work as an outdoor instructor, I have the chance to transform the lives of young people like myself. I enjoy working with youth in the outdoors because I feel they trust me and I can become a role model to my peers. Before being with Outdoor Outreach, I didn't have the opportunity to experience and play in these parks and outdoor spaces. Today, I feel fortunate and proud to be a part of a community of young leaders working to increase outdoor access to all. I support the recommendations of the Parks Forward Commission to increase outdoor connections for young people. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Laura. Now, Deanne West, welcome. Tell us what you're thinking.
Good morning, and thank you for the opportunity to speak to you. My name is Dion West. I'm a freshman at UC Irvine and an instructor in training at Outdoor Outreach in San Diego. I want to share my experience with you because I think it can help inform your efforts to increase park and outdoor access for urban youth. I'll start by telling you that in my community, most people are surprised when I tell them that I'm not interested in basketball, but I would rather camp, surf, and hike. There's not that many youth of color who do the things that I do, and I think that if they just had the chance to do them, they would love it. When I was young, I didn't have a connection to the outdoors. My parents were always too busy or too tired to work to take me or my siblings anywhere. I didn't know about any state parks or open space areas. This all changed for me when a friend of mine introduced me to Outdoor Outreach, which had a weekly program at my high school. Despite living in San Diego for 10 years, I have yet to despite living in San Diego, I hadn't been to the beach in 10 years. Yeah. My first outing was to Torrey Pines State Reserve, and on our trail hike to the ocean, I was struck by the beautiful scenes of towering cliffs over the beach. On other outings to other parks, I learned how to rock climb, surf, and mountain bike, but yet looking back, it was really that first trip to Torrey Pines that really changed things for me. Over time, I became deeply connected to the outdoors. I learned to do things I never thought possible, and I challenged myself physically and mentally. Above all, I feel the outdoors gave me a chance to see a different perspective in my own life. Issues like pollution, degrading our oceans, didn't really hit home for me until I actually understood what was worth protecting. I believe that we are all responsible to not only pick up trash and protect our environment, but also to speak up and protect the places that we love. I am motivated to share my experience with you in the hope that I can help other people connect to our parks and state beaches because I know the profound effect that it has on me. Regardless of where they come from, I strongly believe that all kids should have equal access to the outdoors. I don't see a lot of youth of color enjoying the outdoors, whether it's because parents are too busy, being tight on money, not living in close proximity to a state park, or all of the above. Many youth face barriers that do prevent them from experiencing and being influenced by the outdoors. In addition to your recommendations in your report, I would add the goal to have an outdoor program in every school district by 2025 in California. Thank you for your efforts to protect and strengthen California's park system and to ensure that all Californians, especially youth, have the opportunity to experience them. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us today. Very good. And Laura, also thank you for joining us. Our final speaker is Albert Vickland. Albert, okay, from, I think it's Sacramento River Dippers and the Nature Society. All righty.
Good morning. I am Albert Vickland. I'm a naturist. Naturists advocate clothing optional use on public lands. I'm a member of the River Dippers of Sacramento, a naturist group of over 120 members. Also a member of the Naturist Society, which is a national organization of naturists. However, I'm not speaking for these groups this morning. I'm speaking for myself. I'm also a member of State Parks Foundation. I'm pleased that the park system caters to diverse groups, such as equestrians and hikers and disabled people. We are one of those diverse groups. that use the state park facilities. We are interested in having areas in our parks set aside for clothing optional use. We would not like these, however, to be included in the apps. We don't like to advertise. We don't like looky-loos. But
they're taking note.
Pardon? But we would like to have such areas to be included in the state park areas, especially where clothing optional use has been traditional in some of our state beaches. Typically, naturists using clothing optional areas designate people in the areas as stewards of that area, policing for improper behavior, cooperating with law enforcement as necessary. We have a tradition of carrying out more trash than we bring in. You'll find beaches that are frequented by naturists are probably cleaner than beaches that you see elsewhere. So anyway, I appreciate the Parks Foundation, what you're doing, and thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Appreciate your comments. Thank you for joining us. That concludes our public testimony. We very much appreciate everyone's comments and your attention here today. Now we're going to move on to commissioner discussion and a vote on our final report. I'd just like to comment, for almost all of our meetings, the commissioners have been in a listening mode, and we've asked a few questions and made periodic comments like you've seen here today, and I'm looking forward to hearing from each of the commissioners about your personal experience on this commission and the work that we've done. And if you don't mind, I'll just kick off with some brief comments. First of all, not every commissioner is here today. And I want to note that Dr. Manuel Pastor of the University of Southern California is not able to join us because he's being honored today with an award of an endowed chair for him at the University of Southern California in his Department of Civil Society and Social Change. But he supports our report, and he was also instrumental in the Spanish translation of the executive summary and helped present demographic information in some of our early meetings. So Manuel's been a big part of us today. On the report, I would like to say that it is a result of everyone's efforts here, along with your efforts, and citizens all across California. We had meetings up and down the state. Our goal from the beginning was to make recommendations to the legislature and the governor as described in the law that established Parks Forward Commission, and to make recommendations that would transform the Department of Parks and Recreation, would transform its culture, modernize its business practices, greatly expand access for a much larger group of Californians, and that these recommendations would become sustainable over time, a true long-lasting transformation. One of the things that makes me happiest about our efforts is that the Parks Forward report is already an action plan. Secretary Laird has said many times he didn't wait to start. He embraced the report from the beginning, and Director Lisa Mangat is already actively taking on tasks in the report and working with her staff to make them happen. So we're very pleased about that. We want to make sure, although the report is final, that I know the commissioners want to stay engaged, and you must stay engaged, because it is our process. The parks belong to all of us. The department is an agency that works for us as citizens of our state. And so ongoing vigilance, and as John Laird said this morning, renewing our commitment to working with the department and overseeing the progress being made is part of our work and our responsibility, and we join you in that. So I want to thank the commissioners for all the work that we've done together. It's been really terrific. We could just go down the row if people are comfortable with that, or you can raise your hands. But I invite you to make your comments on your experience with Parks Forward. I think we're going to start with Dr. Steve Lockhart.
I guess there's some things about raising your hand, huh? And I apologize that I will have to leave right after our vote, so that's why I raised my hand early. It was not because I'm a kid who's always in the front of the class. Anyway, I will be brief, but I did want to note that anything that I had intended to say when I came into the room is now tempered by and informed by the amazing comments that we've heard from the public. And what I learned from that is there's an incredible amount of support on the individual level and the organizational level with volunteers, and we both appreciate and we're going to need that support to move our parks forward. I think we all have a shared vision around engaging the public. I would have said an increasingly diverse public, but it's already diverse. We're already there, and the trick is that we now have to bring our parks along to meet that obligation. In order to do that, obviously, we're going to need the Parks Department to change and to transform, and I'm very encouraged and pleased to know that the leadership of the department is now taking on this mantle and will help lead the charge. And where we need new models of leadership is willing to take the bold step to create those new models so that we can engage a public that we have not engaged before. Finally, I would say that this is the Parks Forward Commission, which means that we envision moving our parks forward, but we never once claimed that this would be a linear process or that they would move forward in a straight line, which means that there will be course correction along the way, and it means that we will be involved and engaged in making sure that the general direction is forward, even if it's a little left or a little right. Of course, that this report will just be a beginning of a roadmap and not the end of a process. And so I would encourage all of you, as we've heard today, to take that passion and commitment and to redouble it into support for the department and for the work that needs to be done going forward. And I want to appreciate you as much as we've heard about what you appreciate we've done. I want to appreciate all of you as well.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you. Commissioners? Carol?
Well, I have to agree with Commissioner Lockhart. That was just such a wonderful series of speakers, and it was just phenomenal. But I want to start by just saying thank you to my fellow commissioners, to the chairs that have put in such an extraordinary amount of work. It's been just such a wonderful experience and so uplifting, and also to the staff of RLF and all of the people that worked on what I think turned out to be just a really inspiring report. I have to say, as we were sitting here today in a state park, which we sometimes forget here at the Railroad Museum, we could hear kids all the time that we were sitting here, and I don't know if you all could hear it, but there were kids, and they were just so delighted in what they were experiencing, and it just it brings to mind, what is it that we're doing here? It's all about this system that we've created, from the Redwoods to Anza Borrego, the coastline, and the amazing cultural and historical parks, the missions. We have so much in this system, and it's easy to sometimes forget as you get into an intense study of how to fix things, which is really what we're doing. Is we're on a trajectory, and we have to make sure that we course correct now and that we head back up again, because that's where this system has gone in its history. And admittedly, we were a little bit flatlining, but now we're going to be headed up, and I really believe that. But the parks, they're natural temples, they're outdoor gyms, they're places for all of us to find inspiration, and by that I really mean all of us. I loved the suggestion, an outdoor program in every school district. I really think, and I see Lisa nodding, I feel like after what we just heard from the kids at the end of our speaker group, it's just so critical that kids get to go outdoors. Can you even believe 10 years in San Diego and not going to the beach? And I hear this all the time. That's right. So really, that's what this report is about. It's our marching orders. We have to make sure that this doesn't happen in the future. We have to make sure that all of the people that are paying for the system and it's their backyard, that they have an opportunity to get out and enjoy it and experience it. It's absolutely critical. So the partnerships, I pledge as a director of a regional park system to continue our engagement. I am very encouraged by what's in the report about the creation of a seamless park system where we're all working together hand in hand. The animals, the creatures, and really people don't necessarily see park boundaries, and we shouldn't see them either. We should not be driving by each other's trash cans. We should be working hand in hand to create a wonderful experience for the people of California. Also for the nonprofits, I know a lot of my friends from Jack London, from Valley of the Moon Natural History Association are here. They've done such a terrific job, and we're going to be, any day now, we have a trail that's going from a regional park to a state park. That's the kind of thing I'm talking about. We're connecting trails and we're connecting our management. State parks, nonprofits, regional parks, local parks. This is the future. So once again, thank you all so much. It's just been a wonderful experience. I look forward to our final meeting when we'll be checking out how things are going, but I know that they'll be going well. Thank you.
Who else at that end of the table would like to make some remarks? John? Toby, then Michael, maybe, and then we'll swing back over here.
I was kind of hoping to go after Toby so I'd know what to say, but. So first, I'm an expat Californian. I'm no longer a citizen of the state. I chose to live near my grandchildren as opposed to in the state that I love the most. So I'm very, very thankful to the Secretary and to Michael Mantell and to Ken for asking me to be a part of this, because California is where my heart lies. California state parks are the most distinctive state park system in the world, and they deserve to be managed in a way that reflects that distinction. And that's what we have tried to approach here, and I think we've set a good standard to be followed. I've been really deeply impressed with the philanthropic community support, with the commitment of the governor and the Natural Resources Agency, of the RLF staff. They've been just a delight. They're intelligent, they're caring, and they're committed and fun. Ken, Melissa, and Delba, and all of us here on the commission. They've been a wonderful, wonderful bunch to work with. And of course, the state park staff, they care, and they care what happens to them. And 2 to 4 years ago, they became the most dispirited state park staff in the country, and they deserve to end up a year from now as the least dispirited and the most enthusiastic and the most loved state park staff in the United States. And that's part of what we're striving for. Lisa mentioned the data-driven activities, and data-driven activities are incredibly important. With no good data and no good use of data, there is no credibility in the political world or in the public world. And the establishment of high-quality data that's used intelligently is absolutely essential for the future of the state park system. That doesn't mean that we need to forget about, let me say it differently. It means also we need to have an equal understanding and caring about the altruistic reasons for why a state park system exists. The creation of a state park is a promise to the future. It's a promise to the future that we care about where we live. It's a promise to the future about we care about what our social movements have been, and what we want to pass on to our kids and our grandkids and their grandkids. And that altruism needs to be absolutely front and forward with every piece of data that is used to try to create the credibility so that those people in the future have these places. One other thing I'd say, I too was impressed with the outpouring of comment this morning. And but one thing did come to my mind. All organizations, whether they end in .gov or .com or .org or .edu, have a tendency towards inertia. And what we're talking about today is destroying the tendency towards inertia. And I would just challenge particularly the nonprofit organizations that our current partners may have been partners for 40, 50, 60, 70 years, to look deeply inside themselves and see whether or not their inertia is the appropriate response to how they respond to the future of the state park system. And I think those nonprofits who are not tied to their past but are more tied to the future, they're not tied to how they operate but how they could operate, become the most important partners for the future and contribute the most. And partners are critically important. In the last century, particularly the beginnings of the last century, the model for managing a park was, we manage it for you. The model for the future is we manage it with you. That's what society demands today. So I think that's where we're headed. Those kinds of things are what the report tries to codify and place in the hands of the transformation team and of the government agencies and of the people of California. So I couldn't be prouder to have been a part of this. I couldn't be more enthusiastic to see the future sheen that unfolds as a result of the activities of the people that we turn this over to. But we just all need to remember, the proof is in the pudding. The heavy lifting, as I think the Secretary said, maybe it was Lisa, still needs to be done. And what I hope we see at the end of this administration, as the Secretary referred to, is I hope that we see that the people of California actually see and experience their state park system as the finest, most enthusiastic state park system in the whole United States. And I hope that the people keep track. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Michael or Toby? There you go.
Yeah. One of the benefits of going a little bit later was that you could come on to say, I agree with everybody else, then we're done. Clearly, I'm equally enthusiastic with the goals that are set out in the report and the kinds of things that Carol and Steve and John and Chris have talked about in terms of why we do all of this and the things that Lisa had talked about as well. I wanted to just take a few minutes, in addition, though, to come back down into the report and comment on a few things that happened along the way that I think had a lot to do with shaping the way the Commission's report came out, and hopefully then to give you some insights into a few of the pieces. They may be obvious, but let me just comment. I think the journey has been really positive for me in two respects. One is what you referred to, Carol, which is the opportunity to spend time with each other in a working environment where as things developed, it became clearer and clearer how much we share both the long-term goals and the sense of what's feasible and how you put all of that together. I think the other piece is to have watched the change that occurred over the period of time that we were doing from the initial research reports and public descriptions of what was the state to where we are now. And in my mind, there was a breakthrough that happened along the way that gave us very strong signals that a very positive opportunity could be turned into reality. And one of them was the evolution in the management at the department, and the second was actually going ahead and creating the transformation team and committing to that. The related piece that I think is really important in all of, and is background to, I think, what made the creation of the transformation team more possible, and probably the change in the management is a very important piece of this report, which I hope everybody will keep in mind, and it has a lot to do with what are the expectations. So in this document, Appendix C is really important, and it is the piece that talks about all the goals, all the strategies, puts them into the 2-year span and the 10-year span. I mean, it's a lot of work to do, and it's going to change a lot of culture in the department as well as throughout the state with a lot of the organizations that you represent. Appendix C, if you will, is a reality measure, and so therefore I think really important. The question of funding, essentially what we had in mind and have in mind was, you know, the report doesn't call for new funding this year or doesn't call for specific formulas for that. It's premised upon, I would say, two things. One is there has to be a demonstration that the funding can be spent wisely and effectively. And the second is the constituencies around the state of California need to be expressing, there needs to be more expression from more people more effectively so that the legislature and the governor in the future, whoever they are, hears that message. That's going to be, those things together are going to be the things which actually then bring more funding into the parks in California. The last piece I would say is there is that really critical question of what next. And we've heard from Lisa today the commitment to create the website and the invitation to follow the transformation team's work, which if you get a chance at some point and see the transformation team's initiatives and compare those to the Appendix C, there isn't a lot of, there's some language difference, I'm sure, but there isn't a lot of difference. And so the ability to track transformation team and the report are going to fall pretty close. So there is that. There is also this really significant effort. All the way along, less visible has been the work of the Resources Legacy Group. They are remarkably talented and incredibly devoted people. And we in California are very much the beneficiaries of their work. They're continuing in this with equal passion. You will see on the back of the document a list of the foundations and donors to this, that created the funding to make this possible. They are staying intact thanks to the work of the Resources Legacy Group, and they will be continuing to work with the department and with all of you, particularly the friends of groups, in terms of what happens next. One of the questions is, for instance, what and how is the Parks California organization going to be created? A lot of that will depend upon the work of Lisa and Steve and the transformation team as they develop their work, and a lot of it will depend upon the continuing follow-through of Resources Legacy Group and the donors that have backed that. So those are just pieces that I hope are helpful for you to understand what shaped this report. And again, I join in that comment of thanking all the fellow commissioners and the Resource Legacy Group and Canon Group for making this all work for us.
Thank you, Toby. Michael?
Yes, I have some brief comments to add on to what Commissioner Reynolds and Commissioner Rosenblatt have talked about in terms of what might be called the natural state of inertia. The state of California is faced with many different kinds of challenges. The state park system, the future of the state park system is just one of the challenges. And yet it's, I think, very gratifying to see that this process that we've been involved in for the last 2 years, resulting in a report which is not going to end up on a shelf, makes this effort somewhat unique. I agree with the other commissioners that this in part has to do with the willingness of the Resources Legacy Fund and the participating funders to recognize that there needs to be a change. I think some of this has to do with the sense of crisis that came out from the aborted effort to try to close about 70 of the state parks several years ago, but instead of resulting in despair, it actually has resulted in a constructive effort to try to point toward changes. I would also say it in part has to do with the Governor's Office, the Natural Resources Agency, and the Department of Parks and Recreation not doing what sometimes happens in cases of crisis. That is, in other cases, what happens is the government tends to fall behind and react to crisis instead of getting out in front of the change. And in this case, I think culminated by the creation of the transformation team, it actually is a positive example of trying to get out in front of change instead of falling behind it. So my sense of it is that the last 2 years has been a very good use of our time. I think that with the other commissioners, with Ken Wiseman and his other staff colleagues, this really has been a very constructive effort, and so it's been a good use of time, and I recognize it's not over yet, so the change is going to continue, but it's been very gratifying to be involved up to this point.
Thank you so much, Michael. And I'll turn to this side. Hawk or Julie? Who goes first? I'll go. All righty. Thank you.
Well, we're getting near the end of the comments, and truly everything has been said, but not by everyone. But I totally want to echo the accolades to the RLF team and the state team that's been working on this, and it's been really such a pleasure to work with this group. When I was asked to sign up with this idea for a Parks Forward Commission, they asked me because of a few hats I wear, obviously being connected with the funders that funded this effort through the Packard Foundation, but also wearing my hat leading a major visitor serving institution at the Monterey Bay Aquarium. And so I had thought long and hard about so many of the issues related to what the commission was charged with doing. But really, I guess for me, time and time again, I was just reminded how passionately I feel about the topic, and have to say that listening to all of you here, that this is the great news about what we're working on here, is people feel so deeply about it, and about the need for change, and about the importance of having a vibrant park system that we can enjoy and our kids and grandkids can enjoy. And so, like many of you here in the room, I'm sure, I'm a native Californian, and my father built his company here. The Packard Foundation has funded so many enterprises toward improving the quality of life, for Californians and opportunity, and including environmental issues. And it's truly, I guess my reflection would be, having invested in so many of the great ideas of people around our state to improve that quality of life and the nature that we all share, is that we have no excuse to not get this right. There is such a wealth of talent and energy and volunteer enthusiasm and innovation and creativity, not to mention all of that passion, that truly if we don't fire up and do this, we really have no excuse. As was already said, I think the other thing that was on my mind throughout was really this idea that California obviously should have the best state park system in the nation, if not the world. We have amazing resources to protect, We have a wonderful underpinning, a network of existing, protected areas and cultural resources and historic sites. We have the best universities. We have super strong conservation NGOs with a ton of smart people working on resource management and innovation throughout. And of course, we have all the amazing support organizations. So we've got all the pieces, and so I think that really bodes well for success. In terms of the process of the of putting together the report, just a few observations. I mean, I would say it really amazed me how quickly the people here at the table coalesced around the key points here. That's always a good thing. And something that was really important to me, though, that I think we all worked on and hopefully came out with a good result, was the idea of setting a vision statement and having a vision into the future. Now, a lot of reports have vision statements, but I still maintain that you really, as the trite saying goes, if you don't know where you're going, any path will get you there. And I think truly, starting with that vision, we then decided, okay, that's fine, lots of reports talk about problems and the long-term vision, but we really wanted to take it to the next step. We had a few rocky phases there in terms of roles. We were fired up, like, let's just write the implementation plan, and then we kind of had to back up and say, oopsies, wait a minute, that the state's going to implement this, and they need to fully embrace and help create that. We'll throw the ideas out there, but I think where we came out, really the most, I think, remarkable thing about this whole process and about where we are now is the fact that, we have a report that's really a blueprint, but probably even more importantly, we have the state agency with a transformation team in place, some money behind that, some people, some warm bodies behind that, some funders that are ready to continue to invest in the ancillary information and consulting help and whatever needs to happen to get from here to there. So it's not only the commitments that's there, I think the pieces are in place to move forward right away. And so, the final thought on everyone's expectations, I think we all know change is hard, and it's going to take a long-term, dedicated commitment. Each person in this room, I know, we all could think of our pet peeve about the park system and our thing that we want to know. When is the state going to fix that thing, whatever it is? And we all have those items, and especially those of you that are working so hard on the ground and doing this amazing. I've been so impressed to hear what all the park support organizations are doing, just remarkable. And actually, I had the privilege of speaking to the Point Loomis volunteer, their whole annual volunteer association. I know there are like hundreds and hundreds of people there just doing amazing work and amazing commitment toward that. I think it's just going to take a spirit of cooperation and thinking of new ways to work together. And I know the spirit is for each piece, all the moving parts of the system, whether it's the volunteer organizations, the state piece, the foundation funders, the private individual contributors, the business, the concessionaire partners, they're all part of the ecosystem that's going to make for this thriving park vision to come into reality. Each one of those needs to up their game, and I encourage every person that's part of the ecosystem to approach it with a spirit of new thinking and cooperation and innovation. With that, we all need to stay at the table, hold the state accountable, keep an eye on how things going, and contribute our best ideas. And I thank all of you for all that you're doing for our parks. It should be an exciting future for all of us. Thank you.
Thanks, Julie. Thank you, Julie. Hawk, your comments are welcome.
I want to thank my fellow commissioners and all the people involved in this process. I've really learned a lot from this experience. It's been tremendous for me. Personally, as a Native American person that has been involved in conservation issues in the state here for the last 25 years, this has been a really invigorating process for me. And as a Native person, I was taught at an early age that The land, the water, the air are all gifts to us as human beings. And they are gifts to us to take care of for the sake of the future generations. Our state parks are a very important part of that. And I have come to understand that more every day in working with this process. I've been so impressed by the leadership in the department and in our team and in all of our support network, and I've learned so much from the public about what is going on in all of our different state parks. All of us cared very deeply about the state parks, and that's why we're here today. That's why we've been engaged in this process. I think, to me, one of the most important lessons from all of this and the directions for the future is that our leadership, as it grows, needs to reflect the diversity of the state so that we truly have a future that is going to mean that everyone is engaged in this process. So I'm really excited about all the opportunities, in particular, the new and meaningful ways in which California tribes will be engaged in the future of state parks. The tribes, after all, are the state's first conservationists. So I want to thank my fellow commissioners and know that we're all committed to the next several months of being part of this process to make sure that the change occurs. Thank you.
Thank you, Hawk. Lance, I think you're going to wrap things up.
Thanks for everyone's comments. I'm in the unenviable position of being I'm like the last person at one of those award shows where you're about to get kicked off stage. I want to echo thanks to everyone. I also want to, as an administrative note, mention that I've spoken with Commissioner Linton, who is strongly in support of our plan, and unfortunately couldn't be here today. If any of you follow Sony in the news, he's got his hands full. I just want to talk briefly about a few things. One, just to echo what Toby said, and to be very clear, Lisa mentioned that they have a website that's live that has the transformation plan on it. We've actually done a very detailed mapping of our recommendations versus theirs, and to be very clear, there's almost no gap. It's very significant overlap. And in that respect, I would propose that as we all look forward and look to judge performance and look at a plan, that we focus our attention there, not to diminish the tremendous amount of effort that's gone into this plan. But I think the good news is that, as Secretary Laird said, they have embraced this plan, and it is reflected in this plan, and I encourage all of you to take a look at that website. So, again, I just want to take a moment. It's sort of a breather, right? We've put a vision and a plan out. It's been embraced. I think there is some measure of pride that we can all take in that collectively, not just this commission, but everyone in this room who's been a part of the process. But I think now we have to think, what are the challenges ahead, particularly as we now look to, in effect, hand off this plan to the transformation team and the Department of Administration. And so I just wanted to speak to the sort of two groups in the room. One is the Department and the Administration, and then it's sort of everyone else, the public, the users, stakeholders, all of us who are involved in nonprofits and other groups that support parks. I'll take the latter first. I think my motto here is that we all need to trust but verify. I think I would encourage everyone to continue their deep and broad support for the department. Again, it's always amazing to see just how many people and how much effort goes in to being involved in parks. But I also, in line with sort of what Julie said, would inject the spirit of cooperation. I'm sure everyone has a complaint about this report or about the park system. I'll tell you what mine is. I really love that one of the designs they didn't pick to be the pilot skyline. I'm just going to put my vote in for that. I was telling my wife this earlier this week, and as usual, she sort of listens and then decides what she's going to tell me, and she goes, that's great, but this isn't about you. And It's about the parks, and I just want to reiterate that because all of us are going to have a gripe or a complaint, but the parks are bigger than all of us. We're trying to create a sustainable system here. We all have our own interests, but I do believe that as the department is transformed and we start to put wins up on the board, and it's, you know, if the department really gets good at partnering and they're able to pilot in certain areas, those achievements will pay benefits across the board for all of us. And so in that respect, I do believe that a rising tide will lift all boats. So trust, but verify. I am very interested in that all of us remain vocal watchdogs of progress against this plan. The department is welcoming that, and I think we owe it to them and to ourselves to remain ever vigilant about the progress of the plan. As I think about the department, I also have, I guess I would couch it in terms of advice. Go big, get naked, and stay foolish. Let me explain what that means. When I say go big, I mean prioritize significant impact. You now have a transformation plan that has 30 some odd initiatives grouped into committees. Obviously, and I think Elizabeth spoke to this earlier, we've got to be able to prioritize within that sequence and phase all these many pieces. It's going to be a complex juggling act. But I would suggest keeping in mind that you really are trying to create the biggest impact in the most sustainable way, because I do think it would be a failure if we end up at the end of a year or two and we can only point to certain pilot projects. I think you've spoken to this, Lisa, very cogently in the past, that we've got a lot of innovation going on within the department and the system. There are a lot of great ideas there. Now we need to lift those up and really be able to scale them. So what do I mean by get naked? Not what you think. What I mean is be transparent and open. You've launched the website today, which is a great sign. All of us need to know what you guys plan on doing, when you plan on doing it, and what sort of help you need. And again, I'm encouraged by these initial steps, and again would urge you to continue with that sort of open spirit. And then lastly, in terms of staying foolish, one of my favorite mottos, I guess, is the wise man knows himself to be a fool. And I think one of the trickiest parts of what you're attempting to do is how to figure out what you don't know, and to really seek out help to help you figure out what you don't know and then help you solve those problems. Again, I'm encouraged by the discussions we've had around the areas that you're looking for outside expertise. But I would hope that spirit continues, and in particular that you reconfigure yourself to receive more help, which obviously is a theme that cuts through our partnership discussions. And I guess I would. There's another quote I think of that sort of inspires me in that regard. The late Mario Cuomo once said that government's job is not to provide every service, but it's to ensure that every service is provided. And I think that is something that ought to be reflected in the way we approach partnerships going forward. And again, I feel confident and optimistic that we're on the right path. And lastly, I would just on a personal note say, again, it's been a tremendous experience. This isn't over yet. We'll be back together in 6 to 8 months. But I want to thank all my colleagues and all the staff and support help that's been so critical to getting us to where we are.
Thank you, Lance. Thank you, and it was a pleasure hearing from all the commissioners. Let's move towards the vote for approval of the Parks Forward Commission report. I just want to reiterate for the purposes of the record that Dr. Steve Lockhart, who had to leave a few moments ago, supports the document, as do our 3 absent members, Dr. Carolyn Finney, Dr. Manuel Pastor, and Michael Linton. So could I have a motion and a second, please, to adopt the report? John Reynolds moves? No, Toby moved. Oh, Toby moved, okay. And John Reynolds seconds. Is there any objection to adopting the report as we know it? Okay, I see no objections. I will say then that the report's adopted by the Commission, and again, my congratulations to all of us, the commissioners, my fellow commissioners who did such a good job, and to all of you who participated in such a detailed way. I'm going to move to adjournment, but I just want to add a couple of names to our list of people who've been thanked. And as you know, a lot of people worked on this, but I want to especially thank our Executive Director, Ken Wiseman, who led us through the process and helped ensure successful outreach, not just from these meetings, but many others with staff and town hall meetings. We thank him for his service, commend him for your contributions, Ken, and wish him you well in all your future endeavors. Really appreciate it. And Ken was supported by our office administrator, Delbra Gibbs, who managed logistics for all our meetings. And then finally, Carolyn Fisher, who managed meeting requests, travel arrangements, calendars, and many, many details to keep all of us in the right place at the right time. And I want to just add how much I appreciate all the people that have testified here this morning, the department, the NGOs, the volunteer groups, and of course my fellow commissioners. But I have to call out Resources Legacy Fund for being the hub for this whole activity. They're the bridge to the funders that supported the Parks Forward endeavor from the very beginning. They, connected with the Parks Department, with the administration, and with the Agency for Natural Resources, and really kept us all moving in the right direction. So with that, we're going to reconvene in 6 to 8 months. There will be, I guess, a press availability right outside this room.
We're going to just in the lobby there by around the train. Mr. Miviglio and will be available.
We will follow you, Ken.
All right, just be available for if some of the press here find us, and we'll make you available.
And so, if there's no objection, I'll take a motion to adjourn. Lance moves. Any objections? Seeing none, we're adjourned. Thank you all for being here.